Woo, snowplow.
I love the Twitter feed goes off right as we begin. There's the toe plow. There's Mr. Clean in first. We're locked and loaded for another America Heals here, episode 18. And in a week where it looks like, I don't know, looks like we need some roads cleared out in the world. There we go. We're watching this thing. It's mesmerizing as we tweet out and let folks know. Please like and share that we are on right now. We're going to go tonight through some of the impeachment stuff, but we're also going to talk a little bit more about sort of the core of what this impeachment trial is really bringing up in our country and in our world, and where the United States is going to be left standing after this. I think will come up as well. We entitled the program tonight, "Are we the USA or are we the United States of Corruption?" False lies or big lies. And what was the last piece that I wrote down? Oh, yeah, favors. Because that's how it's done in Trump land. And ultimately, what we're looking at here is, and we can go ahead and get rid of the plow. I think we're all in.
We're all in on the toe plow.
We're all in on the toe plow.
Toe plow.
Let's get into it. We've got Luke Red Blue. We've got Ace on the river. And we've got Mr. Jeff. Hello, Al. How you doing?
Hello, everybody.
What's going on?
So I'm red hot tonight. I think we're all probably processing what we've been seeing over the last few days, incensed at the evidence, moved at the continued stark reality of what we faced on that day, what we continue to face as a country. And I think that's maybe the word that tonight on Thursday night, as we watch this thing go down, the recognition that this is still a living, breathing threat. And we have enablers in Congress for a variety of reasons. Most of them are very political. Many are financial, but many are just highly bloodthirst political power grabs and holding on to power that have led us to a situation where we can look at such evidence and still believe, as an overwhelming majority of our opinion in this country, even if it's not in polls, maybe we'll see it in polls tonight, I don't know, but I just know the people I talk to, everybody's got this level of cynicism, like, yeah, shit, we'll see it happen, and we all know they're not going to do it. Because that's the American way. We have so accepted and swallowed the denial factor in this country. We've lived with scoff laws with a president who did nothing but scoff law. And as astute as we've all been watching it, putting this evidence together in a timeline has shown all of us that we're all part of a victimization of a constant present barrage of information that changes behavior. For many people, they didn't buy it. For many people, they rejected it for a lot of good reasons. But for some people, for a majority, a large slice and a 66 or so % majority of the Republican Party are now caught up in a brain system, a belief system, a core ontological, we are this kind of system that only works inside of a bubble that flows around Donald Trump, only accepts a certain amount of facts that are approved by Donald Trump, and the rest of the world doesn't exist. And so this impeachment trial, while we all are looking at it, is facing, it's sort of like the dates that were in the Constitution to cause there to be an election on this day. The impeachment trial is a flag in the ground. And it is a time where we're going to watch senator after senator make this decision of whether or not we are a scofflaw nation of corruption, big lies that are consistently powerful, manipulative lies, and that work, and that we are a place of favors. And so if you do something for me, I do something back. But if you're not part of our favor system, then you're done. Or we're the United States of America and we have a system of laws. And literally this is on trial. It's not about Trump anymore. So that's where we're at on Thursday night. We're in an ontological, existential place when it comes to the rule of law. And we're going to watch potentially watch a system make the wrong decision on purpose for short-sighted plans, the ramifications will be forever. And it won't be Donald Trump that kills America. It won't be the mob that kills America. It will be the senators that were not enough to get 17 to do the right thing that will kill America. That's my monologue as we kick off tonight. I'm sorry to kick everybody in the teeth with this thing, but we've all been through the ringer. There's a lot of discussions about the parameters and the periphery of all the stuff. I'm gonna hand it off to the floor, but my heart hurts for this country and the precipice of decision making that we're in. This is the decision making process that we're in, whether we know it yet or not.
Yeah. I think your points are sound. What strikes me as odd right now is you have senators like Sass, who seems to be talking common sense. He's still a partisan. I'm sure I don't agree with many of his policies and politics because he's a Republican, but he's able to stand back and say clearly, I don't owe Donald Trump anything. I'm a Republican, not Donald Trump, not a member of this administration. He seems to have had the veil lifted from his eyes, and he seems to understand the concepts at hand. And we can list a bunch of other people, the whole Lincoln Project. And so I guess the real question just starts to become, why does someone like Lindsey Graham seem to be ping-ponging around in the middle, to your point, between the literal cabal that has surrounded itself around Trump and just basic rudimentary logic? It's just blatantly obvious. I get it that there's still QAnon people and there's people that we can't touch with logic. But, Lindsey Graham, historically, while, again, I've disagreed with him many, many times, has usually been able to at least make a salient, logical argument. And, are these people – we could go into the details, and I guess that's not what we're doing right now. But apparently they've decided to just continue to hitch their wagon to Trump indefinitely. And obviously, I felt when he was elected, Trump was a huge mistake and huge problem for the Republican Party. Now we've gotten all the way through a full-on coup and insurrection, and a man who still claims that the election was stolen, regardless of all facts to the contrary, and somehow the party is still sticking with him. It just blows my mind. Good example, Lindsey Graham was talking honesty and truth. Then he flies on Air Force One down to Texas, comes back. Oh no, this impeachment's crap. You just said the day before that it's over. The Trump train's over. It was a good try, but now it's dead. We all have to move on. And then you come right back around selling Trump train again. I just cannot believe that you spend time with Donald Trump and come back like, I was doubting the guy, but I went and flew on a plane with him and I came back and he compelled me. I just can't help it that we've heard too many conversations from him. What he does is he sits down with you and he just goes, come on, can you do me a favor? Can you look out for this? Can you be a good guy on this? That compels a grown senator. You get back to Washington, you go, well, he asked me for a favor to look out for him. So what do these people think the payout's going to be? And the people close to him have walked away from this mafia style, and tell them, don't do it. Scaramucci, Cohen, Bolton, so many people have come out of this and said, don't do it. Don't do it. He is a liar. He is a manipulator. He doesn't keep his promises, etc.
It's quicksand. It's going to work if you touch it, right? Every time.
But this is kind of the problem unfortunately, this is kind of the problem. Other countries have this problem a lot more rampant than we did before. And that's corruption. There's kind of two types of corruption. There's one that's hidden corruption, which we're more used to it, where you don't know what's happening, and then someone finds out, they get prosecuted, then that person becomes corrupt. And then there's another type of corruption, which is a lot more rampant in countries like Ukraine and Russia, and that's open out in the public corruption, where we're seeing the corruption happen right in front of us, and then we go, hey, that's not right, and it just keeps on happening. Right. That's the worst type of corruption, because what are you going to do? This is why you have people in Ukraine and Russia and these countries where people, they're still in their jobs, and people go, oh yeah, he's corrupt, because everybody knows he is. It's not, I can't name any. Well, now I can, but 4 years before, could you really name someone that was still in their position? You go, oh yeah, that guy is super corrupt. Like, he just does corrupt. You can kind of do it, but in other countries, there are people like Donald Trump where he's corrupt right in your face corruption, where he's doing it, everybody sees it. And the problem with that is it normalizes that portion.
Yep.
And you don't get people, they're basically, they go into this thing where they go, everybody's corrupt. And you lower the bar where you just go, everybody does it. That's why these countries have elections where like they're anti-corruption elections, where they wipe everyone out and they start completely over.
Yep.
And it's a mess. And we have to get to the point to where we are not okay with open corruption. What happened today with these 3 senators going and talking to Trump's lawyers to help them out is open corruption. And the fact that we're not just going, what are you doing? You're breaking your oath right in front of us and no one's going to speak up. They took an oath to be an impartial justice. And then they go to the other lawyers and help them.
Yeah. No, and so every night in this movie that we're watching unfold before us, we see these not just the crazy overarching narrative of corruption with all the different facets of the story, but then we watch the characters in the midst of it. Mike Lee standing up and throwing a temper tantrum about absolutely nothing, in the middle of that vote, just to cause, as they said, a kerfuffle, just a popcorn fart. That's what he did, just to kill the rhythm, because that's all they're there for, man. They have a job to do, and their job is getting highly paid and highly promised favors after job is done to the next job of a world full of favors and friendship and corruption. And America has to deal with this. We have been watching money in politics for the last 40 years just go complete. You want to talk about Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever go into the moon? Money in politics has been the best investment.
Because corruption pays well.
Pays big.
It pays really big.
And I've been dominating, and we've been going on. And there is probably one of the most profound thinkers on the continent sitting there silently waiting. Mr. Luke Red Blue, I apologize for holding back, but thank you for being with us tonight. And
thank you for having it.
We're covering too much ground.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover because there's a lot at stake. I really appreciated a couple of particular remarks that were made today. One of which was by House Impeachment Manager Castro. He said, "We must stand up for the rule of law because the rule of law doesn't just stand up by itself." And there's always this frustration. It's a frustration that's existed since the classical times, where we want to have the rule of law, and that means that we're going to follow by the rules. However, your opponents, those who would subvert the rule of law, obviously they abide by different rules, and that can put you in a very frustrating place. And some people might suggest, well, then we should cheat too. We should be corrupt then. We should do backhanded things. We should cheat the system. But how do you cheat the system and then be able to tell people that the rule of law is important? If you watch the one of the House managers telling you about how important the rest of the world, Luke would look better with a red MAGA hat. Jesus Christ.
I think that's a friend of the show. I think they're just being funny.
It's kind of not funny right now because he's a Nazi. But anyway, we're sort of in a paradox, and this is the paradox that everyone has to wrangle with themselves. Here's your paradox. Try to fit your mind around this paradox real quick. You have the House managers basically putting the entire crux of the entire debate on the fact that Donald Trump has an incredible amount of influence on a lot of people. He even said and boasted that my followers are so loyal to me, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and I would be fine. At the same time, those on the Republican side who are watching all of this are saying, he is so popular, he is so, people will do whatever he says, we can't impeach the guy because we're afraid of what his followers would do.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile these two things?
Yeah.
So they're both arguing. Each side recognizes that this guy. Each side recognizes his influence, but each side reacts to that influence in a different way. One is saying we should follow the rule of law. We should remember that this is not a country of dukes and princes and czars, and so no one is above the law. And you have the other side that's saying, oh, well, he couldn't have possibly influenced all those people to the extent that his words, they reacted to his words and walked over and, destroyed the Capitol, while at the same time, they're all too shitless to convict the man because they're afraid of the fact that he can tell a whole crowd of people to move across the mall, the Capitol Mall, and storm the building. So that is the paradox right here, and it just what we need is some courage, right?
Well, and we have to recognize at some point and name that we've been played. And a lot of times we love to be played. We go and watch a movie so that we can be played. And at the end, we have an emotional reaction to being played one way or another. A horror movie or a drama or a comedy move us. Writing works. Language works. It changes your day when you hear a song that you love. Why? Because it works. Because listening to the power of two chords going back and forth and then hitting that third chord that gives it to you, that people pay. I mean, we pay $200 for a ticket to go see somebody do that. And they know every single time they play the same song, they watch the reaction do the same thing. They all cheer on the same note because that's the money note. Donald Trump is a master of that kind of manipulative media. And when we watch this compilation of stuff and you start to see the dates and the timelines and the flipping back and forth of the tweet was happening then, and then this video happened, and then they're over here in the Capitol, and then this is being done. You start to watch all of that stuff go down. And then you go back and watch how many of us were participants watching this happen on Periscope with the folks that we watched go completely down the rabbit hole over this past year and a half or so towards the election and then after the election. And we all did predict this was going to happen. We were told by them this was going to happen. Right. And so anyway, with all of this stuff happening, we've been played, guys. One of the most important things to tell someone when they're in a bad, toxic situation is to go, we've been had. It's the hardest conversation to have with someone and be like, we've been betrayed, we've been had. But as Americans, that's where we are. And we can't go back. You can't ask our media to ask the same kind of questions, give the same kind of respect if someone acquiesces and doesn't vote for conviction. I mean, seriously, that's it. There's a line in the sand, Marco.
Yeah, well, it's just there's some irony in the fact that you won't convict someone because of the aura of their influence, and his influence is literally the point at hand. The fact that he could tell a crowd to go and do what they did, to go and wipe feces all over statues and buildings in the most sacred place, in our democracy.
We love you. You're beautiful people.
You're beautiful. You did an amazing job. It's just terrible.
There's only two cogent defenses I can think of. The one that we're talking about is he didn't have that influence. So they're directly arguing he didn't have the influence, which we could talk about. But obviously when he got involved in planning a rally, that echoed a rally where people got stabbed and beat up and fought. So a rally after an already violent rally that he had 3/4 of a mile or half a mile away from the Capitol, got a permit to march to the Capitol, told them to go to the Capitol,
raised money for the event,
did nothing but chant stop the steal, said the election was stolen even the day after the insurrection. So carried through the entire situation that it was an insurrection. So that to me is a non-starter argument because it's just obvious that he was critical to this happening. And then the only other argument that I've heard they're going to try and make is that, Ted Lewis said we have to fight for what's right and da 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 da. And to me, I just happen to think of Churchill. I'm sure I'm going to guess that Luke can give me a couple more Churchill quotes than I can. But the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. We can absolutely never, ever, ever give up. Blah blah blah. Those were words of a wartime president about one country fighting another country. You know what I mean? Like, those are compelling, strong words, because that's what he was trying to do, was compel people to action and defend their country. Ted Lieu saying we have to fight for what's right in America on his Twitter wall without a Ted Lieu rally, without a Fight for the Right rally, a week after a million Fight for the Right rally where someone gets beat up and stabbed, after 4 years of, if you beat somebody up in my rally, I'll pay your defense, and good people on both sides, and don't listen to the media, and everyone's crooks, crooked Hillary, put her in jail, crooks.
Stop the steal.
Oh, stop the steal. All the immigrants are here to take from us. Just all this, just constant, you're under attack for 4 years. Then he says, if you guys don't go to the Capitol and fight like hell, we won't have a country anymore. I mean, I'm sorry, that is completely different than any senator or congressperson that I can think of in recent history saying anything fiery. Even Ted Lieu, who likes to get on a soapbox and make strong points, he makes strong, cogent points. He doesn't say, you have to go flip over an apple cart to make your point. He says we have to fight at the ballot box to end this whatever, this Republican drive, or we have to ask the president questions why he would participate in this type of situation. He's never said go fight. We support some of those people, but boy, if Mike Pence doesn't do the right thing, he's in for a lot of trouble. The kind of things he said, and again, and again.
And the breaking news, just if people haven't heard it and haven't had a reaction to knowing this critical piece, that when we now see that video of Pence being rushed down the stairs on the backside of the room, we know that Trump knew at that time, because of the Tommy Tuberville conversation. We know that he knew that he was still there, and then he tweeted again negative things about it'd be too bad if he didn't happen to him. So we know that Trump was actively hoping that they were going to get him.
Right. And this is also a man who has stood in front of cameras and said, maybe I'm the chosen one. Don't listen to the media. Maybe I'm the chosen one.
Only I can save you.
Only I can save you.
Yeah.
I mean, this, when you
here's
put all of his quotes together, I don't think you could find 10 quotes like that from Barack Obama. I don't think you'd find a bunch of quotes where Barack Obama said, I know everything. Everyone else is lying to you. Follow me and we'll save the country. I mean, maybe he said one of those things like we have to save money because we're in a major depression right now. Save your money with me and we'll get through this together. It wasn't, obviously kill my vice president, which, by the way, in itself, how are Republicans not irate about that in itself? Just throwing Mike Pence under the bus, who did nothing but suck this guy's pinky for freaking 4 years. And Trump's like, go in there and get Mike Pence. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. And these somehow, like I say, they either can't see this or have just decided we cannot alienate Trump's voters. We have to keep the Trump voters. And I think it's obvious that people like Sass, the entire Lincoln Project, I have to assume big numbers of Republicans have a hole in their stomach right now about like, what is going on? Like, this is honestly gone too far. And they're going to lose more people that way, I think, is pretty obvious than they would if they just look. We all know people like Trump. He was compelling. We all liked him. But look, y'all, he went too far. We got to make sure he can't run for office again. There are plenty of great Republicans out there. MAGA fans, we all love you. We got to just put those MAGA flags away and go on with our lives. But I guess they don't want to do that. They've learned from Trump, never admit your mistakes, never apologize, just keep on lying, keep double down, keep pushing forward. And I think they're just absolutely driving the Republican Party straight off a cliff.
But it's also a math problem. That's the issue for the Republicans. As much as I hate it, it's a math problem. Can you? I have a thing shared. Let me share.
The question is, can any of them win, or will they all lose eventually? In other words, you can hold on to the next 4 years, but will you?
So these are the new polls that came out. Can you see this? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the problem right here. The math problem for the Republicans is this: 9% approve of this. 9. So the Republicans go, wait a minute. If we do this, we're going to have to get back 81%. Right? Versus
So here's
that's not.
Well, there's one problem with that chart is that it's 9%, but as we already know, the number of Republicans are dwindling. So it could be 9% of 20 people. So if you want to pander to 20 people who are loyal as hell,
they just got 74 million. It's very hard for them to go. That 9%.
You're probably well aware that since they got the 74 million,
you're not talking about
the GOP, the Republican Party's been falling apart.
But you're not talking about 9% of the 72 million. You're talking about 81% of people that are not happy, that are quote unquote Republican. Even if that is half of that, it goes into independent, and then half stays. 70 million minus 81%. That's a lot of people that you're upsetting. It's not my fault.
I think they better pay attention as to how many people will be willing to vote for the Republican Party. The Republicans
are also seeing that they have to get, instead of getting back, they have to work only back to get 9%. And they go, we have 4 years to do that. That's their calculation. Yeah. It's not a correct calculation, because I think the Republican Party, they're already talking about, is going to do a split. But the question is, when they do a split, who's the split piece, the smaller amount, which is the Romneys, the Sasses, and all those, the Collinses? Who are they caucusing with?
Well, you have to also talk about the entity of the whole conservative movement when you do this. It's not just the people in office. It's, in fact, they're a minority of the problem. You see, the Republican system, as we know it, is completely a tail wags the dog operation. It's completely been given over to Murdoch and Limbaugh and Hannity. And so those guys are able to own the messaging. Trump was able to capitalize on that machinery and just take it to the moon. What the Republicans don't have, and they haven't had since before Newt Gingrich, because Newt and his cohorts wouldn't stand for questioning the leader. They were very communistic in that way. There was no questioning the leader once Newt and his contract with America came into being in the 90s, and it's been that way ever since. You just don't question Tom DeLay. You just don't question George W. Bush. You just don't question Donald Trump. You don't question Mitch McConnell when that Obama is in the White House either. But here's where we are. In this vacuum, there is a sexiness and a freaking, like, my kids and I were watching on the night of the 6th when Ben Sass spoke, and both of my kids looked at me afterwards and they were like, "Who's that guy?" And I was like, "That's Ben Sass. He's what you'd call a liberal Republican." And they were like, "I've never heard anybody talk like that from the Republicans before."
That's right.
So I believe there's a market for that 9%. If there's a leader or system of leaders or a conversation of leadership in the Republican Party, that 9% changes, because one thing that I do know for sure is that the Republicans are very persuadable. Let's just say they'll buy it if you're selling it. They bought Trump. They bought the most infantile, least qualified, most immoral person into their morality ship, and he sold them on that. He literally sold a ketchup popsicle to an Eskimo. I know that's not an appropriate term, but that's
with white gloves. I think it's supposed to be.
With white gloves.
Yeah.
Like, so they'll follow a leader. If I'm a Republican right now, which I'm not, somebody somewhere who's got their shit together should be standing up going, "You know what? Not only could we find the 17 votes, we could take our party back, or at least connect with enough Democrats to get some stuff done and wean these people out." Because if left to its own device, Lauren Boebert will be a long-standing member of the GOQP, whatever they're called. They have a choice to make.
I think that we're also underestimating just how disenchanted a lot of Republicans have become since the election, since January 6th, since January 20th. Many, I'm sure, I mean, there's even people who follow QAnon who have had a moment of clarity, come to Jesus this moment, and thought, Oh, I thought there was supposed to be a thing that happened on the 20th. It didn't. Oh no. I've been duped this whole time. I was getting duped. They're having those moments. In Arizona, the GOP, the Republican GOP, was trying to pull everything together, and they're in complete and utter disarray. My sister-in-law's dad, um, he's a staunch Republican his entire life. He's always voted Republican. He's from South Carolina. He after everything that's gone on, he's anti-Trump. Doesn't like Trump anymore. Won't have anything to do with him. And I think that when we talk, there's reports in the Washington Post from today and yesterday about people wanting to start a breakaway party for the people who are anti-Trump. So not only is there the idea of a breakaway party for the Trumpsters, there's a breakaway party for the non-Trumpsters. So the block of the GOP is quite fractured right now. I just want to pull up this or just mention this really fascinating quote that Jamie Raskin brought up at the end of his at the very end of the day today, where he quoted Voltaire, and he said, anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. So I'll say that again. Anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And I think that people don't like it when you've been duping them the whole time.
Sorry, Ace.
Oh,
Voltaire wins. Voltaire wins for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see that. I don't have the comments on anymore because I'm trying to concentrate. But you know what I'm saying? I think people don't like being duped. And
that's right, man.
When they have that bad taste in their mouth, they're like, no, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. Last time I did that, I looked like a jackass. I had egg on my face. Forget it. This guy here, this Joe Biden guy, he seems very orderly. He seems very predictable. He doesn't seem as radical as what I was told he was going to be. He seems quite methodical. He seems quite relatable. He seems very presidential. Suddenly you're persuading individuals like the father-in-law, the sister-in-law's father that I was telling you about. That's starting to look more like normal and agreeable. And this running up, charging up buildings with Trump flags, that doesn't seem like a good way to go. And that seems like it goes against many of the ideals that anyone who has conservative values wouldn't agree. You're going against America. You're betting against business. You're betting against the home team. I can't subscribe to that. That seems like nonsense.
Now, there's another piece to this that I want to bring up, and that is some things I watched on some periscopes during the election time that I always thought were uniquely interesting. And that there was this dynamic that started happening somewhere around June, July into the election. And there would be guys who would be going out on a Saturday morning. A lot of times this happened on Saturday morning scopes where people were at Trump rallies that were going to happen 4 or 5 hours later. And it was the morning of, or it was 10:30, 11 o'clock, and people were already at the rally and they're sort of floating around. And it was that free for all. You'll remember seeing some of those videos probably where someone would walk around and they'd be talking to whoever. And in a lot of those videos, something just kept happening over and over again where you would see a guy who's walking around and then all of a sudden 2 ladies or 2 other guys would come up behind him and go, "Oh, hey, it's good to see you again." And they'd give a little hug and then they'd go on and whatnot. And I started to notice that more and more and more. And I'm wondering about this. I'm wondering about this 75 million number. And I'm wondering about the level of support. And I'm wondering about this specific argument that's being made is that this might have, and no one's really named this, but this is where my head has been all week. What if this is just an army of about 150,000 of the same people? What if this goes to a different level where these guys, and we know that a lot of these guys all knew each other and had been coordinating with each other on Parler, and but there weren't that many of them, but they were the same dudes running from this side of the peninsula of Florida to the other.
They just had the largest bark.
And they had a large bark, and they would go to these things. And there was this probably when they'd go to a town, there'd probably be a a rush of enough other people to make those rallies consistently just pumping. But we saw several of our folks on Periscope, I believe, talking about going to the same rallies, and they would go to each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a level of insurrection that essentially we have our billionaire who has an army. We've never had lords or dukes, or that's in our constitution, that there's no person of esteem in this country. You just can't. But we've built a country where we now have billionaires, and this is the first billionaire with his army on our continent running around. We have to think about it in those terms.
So it's funny you should say that, because you have the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and all these different groups. One of them is called the Three Percenters. You know why they're called the Three Percenters? Because when the American Revolution began to take hold, only really 3% having a revolution. And so from that, they're drawing inspiration and saying, look, we're a few. Everyone doesn't agree with us, but we're right. The other, I guess, 97% isn't. And it's up to us to lead the charge and get this done. And so, you know, when they have a very loud, when they're very actionable and everything else, it makes it appear that they are, you know, they're like 60%, when in fact they're only 10%. And that's why I'm saying I talk to a lot of reasonable people who maybe are conservative, or they've always voted Republican, but they don't like this. They don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm telling you that they don't like it at all. So anyway, go ahead, Ace.
I also think it just like Twitter, where everything gets amplified and everybody goes, oh, that's just, you know, those are just loud people. What we're forgetting is, I think you're right, Marty, where it's always the same amount of people. They're following, kind of like a cult. And if you're listening to these people when they're going in and talking at courts, it's very like cult-like. Multiple. I've listened to multiple of their lawyers, and they're all going into this. Hey, they're part of this cult, and they have to like sit back and download and restart, because it's a hard fall for them. But the only thing that they have that is unique is they also have half of the media.
Right.
100%. Where you're going, and if you watch Fox News, I was doing this the whole time. I was tweeting out. Fox News is not covering this impeachment trial the same. They did little pieces, and I felt like it's very coincidentally where they cutting out when the Democrats were hitting the hardest. They were starting to present new video. They kind of ramped up everybody and said, hey, we're gonna show you new video. As soon as they started, Fox News kicked off. Shocker. So now you have a whole section of people. I know many people that will never watch. They will not turn on MSNBC. Right. And I know many people that won't turn on CNN. They won't do it. They won't go listen to it. And if
they won't even turn on C-SPAN either, because C-SPAN is completely neutral, but they won't do that either.
They won't turn it off. They don't want that. Pundits. They need the pundits, and they feel like, and I've talked about this before, so it kind of worked out for the Republicans, because they got this super flawed person that did everything essentially wrong. And he fell into this whole thing where people are watching Fox News, and the Fox News is attacking the other side. Go, look, they're not happy about anything. Every single week, it's a new thing with them. But it kind of worked out that way, where this guy was, every week, he was breaking a new piece. Who touches the mail? Who breaks the mail? I mean, it's ridiculous. But we fell into this thing where the other side goes, you see, I'm not going to watch CNN. All they do is Trump bash. They Trump and they take it personally. They go, oh, not only are you bashing Trump, you're bashing me because I voted for him. So it's me that you're attacking. He is my president. You're attacking me. And it becomes very personal, and they're not looking at it both ways. But the good news is this is really good for the Democrats, because they don't really need, we won. We got enough votes. It's not like we need all of the MAGA people to vote for us. And the fact that the Republican Party is going to even do a split, even if they do a 10% split, that's 10% of the voters that'll swing. And those Republicans are very smart because they understand for the next 2 years, at least, they will get, while Joe Biden and the crew is going to figure out what to do with, I don't know, $5 trillion. They're going to pass 1.9. Marty, I heard you say $3 trillion infrastructure plan, probably.
I hope so. That was, 3 to 5. Yeah.
So in the next 2 years, these 8 or 10 Republicans are going to be part of spending $5 trillion versus being on the sidelines and getting nothing. Because I can guarantee you Alaska would like some money from the infrastructure plan. Mm-hmm. And so these Republicans, these 8 or 10 that break off, it's great for them. Their state is going to get huge portions of money for rebuilding. And then states like North Carolina and Lindsey Graham, you're not part of the negotiations. You don't get a piece. So it's a poor move because the Democrats we only need one vote theoretically to pass this stuff. Just one.
Again, though, and you're right, I agree with what you're saying, but behind the scenes, what is going to change, and this is what they know, is the bundlers. The people who bundle the donations are going to come under some extreme pressure that they've never had to come under before to continue to keep accreditations, to be able to affiliate themselves with academic institutions. Companies will be pulling back from affiliation with some of this QAnon stuff. This will be the unwritten stuff that we won't see. We'll see the ramifications of. But if that money begins to dry up, there is money on the ground from the small donations for this kind of behavior. There are also large donors who are dying. Sheldon Adelson died. That's a big deal. One of the Koch brothers died. If the next Koch brother dies, that's a big deal. Losing Rush Limbaugh on a consistent basis is a big deal. Trump having no Twitter from now on, no matter what, is an enormous deal financially.
It's a big deal. And Washington Post came out with a report, I think yesterday night, that like 80% of the people that have been arrested, they're all in in bankruptcy. They all have money issues, major money issues. 80%. So they're donors, which is why they're super upset. They don't have money. They're upset at everything because they don't have the money. So you're right. Where are they getting this funds? And I'm assuming Fox News is also going to start shifting a lot, because if they're going to have to battle, they have now 2 suits for $2 billion.
They sure do.
And they know for a fact it doesn't really matter if they win or lose. They're going to lose millions and millions of dollars defending 2 lawsuits. And while they're doing it, some of the bigger payers are going to go, oh, do we really want to pour in money into this product that's going to be in dire needs potentially if they lose one of these? They just need to lose one.
I don't know if he's watching yet, but I know he watches this show every time. Mike Bloomberg, when you ever do watch this, you should buy it, man. You should pick it up. This is a good time. Buy low, sell high.
On the cheap.
This would be a good time to make that move, wouldn't it?
And then let Newsmax and all of those take some of it and move on. But Bloomberg, it'll be Bloomberg News.
Pick it up, dude. Pick it up.
I don't know how much influencing senators, or by excluding them from infrastructure, how powerful that really is. I mean, if Lindsey Graham isn't going to get some, it doesn't really work like well. I mean, what's the African American representative from South Carolina who helped propel Biden forward at the beginning? Claiborne's still going to want money brought to South Carolina, and he's still going to lobby that for that in the House. They're not going to shut infrastructure off to South Carolina because Lindsey Graham misbehaved. I think the way that really influenced
rather be part of the negotiations.
Let me get to the end, but I think the way that really hurts them is what Marty was talking about, and that's the donors, the money that they have discretion over, how they want to spend it, how they want to use that to get reelected, and that's usually that's the greatest source of influence. It's the people that from GlaxoSmithKline that pays that adds to campaign contributions, that makes senators jump and makes them say, how high would you like me to jump, and that kind of stuff. And that as that dries up, you're gonna, I'm surprised that I think I don't know, we'll save it for predictions. I would be interested to go around the room and ask people in the comments how many Republicans they think are going to vote to convict, because the money is drying up, and I know that Mitch McConnell is aware of that. So at some point he's got to realize they got to turn the boat around somehow, or head for a different destination, because that destination has no money at the end of it.
Another way to think of it, I think, too, is how many shoes does this centipede have, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, I would assume that most of the senators involved with any of the whipping about this impeachment, if there is any whipping about impeachment, as people start speaking and having conversations in the hallway as they get closer to deliberation, I have to assume someone's going to lean over and say, you guys know if you don't impeach him, we're going to start a House investigation tomorrow into kids in cages, and we're going to bring everybody in. And the day after that, we're going to start a House investigation about this and this and this and this and this. We're going to do another Ukraine investigation, because now John Bolton's been talking in the press that he knows it was corrupt. So we'll go back through that again. And we're going to bring everyone that supported Trump. We can't impeach him again for that, because you guys won't impeach him for anything. But we can tear all you guys that defended him, make you all look stupid. We can drag you down. Meanwhile, Trump is being sued by Georgia for demanding ballots. He's got sexual, I assume at some point.
Oh, no. That's let's be clear. That is currently a criminal investigation. We're not in lawsuit phase now.
Okay, criminal investigation. Phase. He has a criminal investigation for sexual assault. At some point, they will just place a warrant and go to his apartment, open the door, and take his hairbrush, assuming it's his hair that's on top of his head, and they will do a DNA test on that cat and see if it matches. Anyway, sorry, I got a little distracted there thinking about his hair samples. I don't know. Who knows what his hair samples are made out of. But anyway, you get the idea. At some point, they'll go covert. I mean, people have been caught for DNA samples. They followed a guy to a bar and grabbed his glass off the bar and went and took a DNA test off the skin cells on the lip of the glass. I mean, he does not have to comply. They can eventually go after him as an evasive criminal. So again, you're Mitch McConnell, you're Lindsey Graham, you're Ted Cruz. You've hitched yourself to the wagon. Those guys are probably too far gone, to be quite frank. But if you're any of these other people, you are getting ready to vote on impeachment, and unless the defense comes up with something mind-blowing, you are literally going to vote partisan that you're not going to impeach him. And then for the next whoever knows how long, how many months or how many years, you have to watch Donald Trump just absolutely fall apart. And he's going to keep going. Once this impeachment's over, he's going to be back on the news. He's going to be back calling Fox News. He's going to be saying all these dumb dingus things about how the election was stolen. He's going to be calling Lindsey Graham names for talking shit on January 6th. I mean, on and on and on. And so this party is sitting here in rooms and they're going, yep, that's the play. Yeah, we got to back that guy. Yeah, sure, he's going to fall apart for 2 years and then try and put it back together for an election or something, or make us pick his son as a candidate or whatever. I mean, I don't know. And this is where the donors are going to be, because if they do hitch their wagon to that, like everyone's saying, as Trump's stock starts falling and he starts sounding more and more irrational, their money is just going to disappear. They're going to be like, I'm not going to support Lindsey Graham, who followed this guy, literally chained himself to the Trump Titanic as it was sinking. But, I don't know. I'm being too optimistic, but this defense, I mean, because here's what's going to happen, right? They're going to vote, and then they're going to come out, and people are going to start asking them questions. How could you vote to acquit him? And they're going to do what? The constitutionality argument? I mean, that argument doesn't hold water for 15 seconds.
No, it doesn't hold water, because in this system we vote on shit, and it was voted on whether or not it was constitutional, and it passed. So it's constitutional.
The next argument is what? Freedom of speech. As an example they used today in the hearing was, someone yells fire in a crowded theater. That's not what happened here. Someone yelled fire. There was a fire. They didn't put the fire out, and they were the fire marshal.
Right.
They were the fire captain, and they yelled fire. They didn't yell fire. They watched the theater burn to the ground, didn't fight the fire. I mean, Donald Trump individually has freedom of speech, but he's also the president of the United States, who has an obligation to the Constitution. And when he said we're going to go down to the Capitol on the day that they count the Electoral College, we're going to make sure they know that they can't steal our vote. And he sends this mob that's in front of him. I mean, it was a huge mob. I think we're finally starting to see some videos of the actual crowd. Because if you watch the speech, it's just the stage. But now they're starting to show videos of people. And like I said, I mean, that was a huge, I mean, that had to be a crowd of 100,000 people. It was a ton of people. Now, actually hit the stairs at the Capitol, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 to my eye. It wasn't a million people, obviously, that went into the Capitol. But when he takes a crowd of 100,000 people and says, we're going to go to the Capitol and fight because they're stealing our election, this is our last chance. I mean, how do you vote against that? I mean, what could you possibly say? Freedom of speech doesn't work because he's the chief executive. A cop doesn't have the same freedom of speech in uniform that he has when no one knows who he is and he's just out marching in a parade somewhere. A cop can't stand in front of a crowd and say, our mayor is corrupt, you know?
So part of I'm sorry, Mr. Luke, please.
Cool.
I was just going to say that
I was just going to add to Jeff's excellent list. Another defense that you're going to hear is something about, well, you know, he said he was sorry. He tried it. He sent out a tweet, blah, blah, blah. But as we all know, if you commit arson and then you begrudgingly are like, God damn it, I'll put out the fire, you're still in trouble for arson. You still you still started the fire. You still lit the match. It doesn't matter if when the firefighters came, you're like, oh, okay, the fire got way bigger than I hoped. I just wanted to damage like some of the damn place, but you know, and then you can't. There's no backseas. You started a fire. You are in trouble for arson. You're gonna hear that excuse tomorrow too. That, well, what about this tweet when he said you should stop, and the Democrats said he never said they should stop. It doesn't matter. He'd already committed the crime by that point, pal.
Yeah, you become an arsonist when you don't call the fire department.
It's called sins of commission and sins of omission.
Right.
And when you see an abuse happening and you let it go, you are as guilty for letting it happen as you would have been for participating in it. And the fact that he's the president of the United States, and let me just say, if he would have been a small town sheriff, he would have reacted with more constitutional dignity than what Trump did. He was the president of the United States, and he sat there and he giggled and he let it go on for hours because he built it. And he was surprised that people didn't all think that it was a smart move. And he literally looks at people as if they're pawns in his little game because he's a deranged lunatic. And so someone popped in here. He or she's name is Trooper.
I muted him.
Well, they asked the quick question, and let's just go ahead and do this because it's going to be halftime, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this. There's going to be a gamesmanship that begins with the liar caucus, the perpetuation party. I don't know what they're going to be called, but it goes into this kind of a deal. Why are you guys still consumed by Trump?
Right.
So here's what we're going to do for a halftime break. From now on, with those who are part of the sedition caucus that have now become the insurrection, whatever, support system, when I get furious when I watch Sunday morning talk shows, especially with Chuck Todd, because he'll have Ron Johnson on there probably this Sunday. He does it all the time. And he'll ask him the most lopsided right-wing softball, no accountability questions as if he's never been part of anything crazy before today. And then he couches it and he enables these lies on what's supposed to be left-wing media, but it's absolutely not if you look at the content of the questions. So content of questions is critical.
Yeah.
So here's the question that I want to ask, and this is for the audience as well to be part of. I think this should be a list that we build and we can change it over time. Okay. This is kind of my idea here, that this is a living list, but I'm curious as to, based on what we've seen, the atrocities that these people are willing to put up with, and the commitment that the mainstream media is in allowing us to ask these kinds of just asinine questions. Why are you still consumed by Trump?
No. I was just going to answer to the consume thing, but I want to hear.
Well, the question is, what are the 10 questions that media people need to be asking this caucus from this point on? Let's identify them. Let's name some of what those questions ought to be, some of the assumptions behind those questions. And I think this is important for us in America Heals to have as a benchmark for what we're going to see in the acquiescence of the mainstream media that will allow insurrectionists to come right back on TV as if nothing happened. And I think that's important. So that's what I want to do for halftime.
Can you give us an example of one question? Lead us the way, Marty.
So I'm just imagining
what you're saying is you're saying everybody that comes on that's a MAGA Trump person, they need to answer to some of these questions.
To some of these questions.
And be like, we need to know your
first question that I would come up with is, when is the last time you talked to or got instructions from Donald Trump? That's no fucking respect. No assumption that you're there on your own. Yeah. No belief that you're there without some sort of an instruction from a communist ruler like Trump. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and record these.
And whilst we're waiting for that, I just want to answer to the consumed question. I mean, who are you asking the question to?
Yeah.
How are we consumed? I don't have a MAGA hat, MAGA tattoo, MAGA t-shirt, MAGA flag on my bed. MAGA, I got on an airplane and put a helmet on and ran at the Capitol. You tell me who's consumed. Think you're a little consumed. I don't remember anyone who voted for, Bill Clinton, both Bushes, Reagan, anyone else, going out and being that consumed and allowing it to consume every part of their entire lives. Yeah. I mean, who are you talking? Who's consumed? You seem pretty consumed by this person.
His profile said God Trooper MAGA. So, and then quite frankly, the reason I muted him, just for everyone, we have friends and followers in the audience. We're always willing to take suggestions, but this is a political show. So we're going to talk about current event politics, and we generally have our own agenda. So just pretending like you can tell us Trump won't be impeached, move on, you're dumb to be consumed by Trump. First of all, we would absolutely love to never talk about Trump again. Couldn't agree more. It would have been really great if he hadn't shut down an entire branch of the government January 6th, forcing us to continue to have these types of conversations. So while he's being investigated as part of an impeachment, we're going to talk about Trump. And when you have MAGA in your profile, it's disingenuous to act like we're silly about.
I'm imagining the next time Roy Blunt. Y'all remember Roy? He has like the weird eyebrows. The next time Roy Blunt is on CBS Face the Nation, for instance.
Right.
Here's a question I would ask Roy. What is your current belief in the QAnon theory about Democrats drinking blood? And do you believe Nancy drank blood last night? I mean, on Sunday morning while you're drinking your coffee, having the fucking courage to ask these questions, because this is the dance partner that these clown shows are on the daily participating in. And it's our genteel, righteous, safe, nice morning cup of coffee TV shows that allow these people to legitimize themselves as normal.
Yeah.
We have to upend the apple cart with this shit.
They need to be tired or afraid to come and be out in the public, and not in that way. They need to be worried about going to the news and answering these type of questions, because they don't make them look good every single time if they know they're going to come on.
Exactly. And I like the idea of make them tired.
They need to be tired that they have to answer these questions.
All right, here's a good one from the audience. Would you still vote no if they were chanting "kill you" instead of Pence?
Oh, that's a great one.
That's why I wanted to do
this. Yeah, I will tell you that.
Awesome one. If they were saying hang Lindsey Graham, would Lindsey Graham be helping the lawyers fix their crappy presentation for tomorrow? Maybe not.
Yeah, because that's why the jury is is messed up, and a lot of the jury is also complicit in this as well. So it's a little bit of a weird jury, because they're all witnesses. On top of they're all being witnesses, some of them are complicit into that issue, and I think this is the other issue that the Republicans have, that if they convict him, then what do you really do with the Howleys and the Cruzes? Because now they're up next, essentially. But I think a question should be: do you think that Trump should be punished, and what should it be?
Just make them name that question.
Name me the question. And interestingly, if you haven't, they have a new tactic that I'm seeing. A lot of them are going, if he did something criminal, he should be charged.
Yeah.
Is that their new thing of maybe the law will get him?
It's the old thing of moving the goalposts.
It's the goalpost got moved.
Yep.
Right. Which reminds me of a question for you to add, Marty.
Yeah.
What is impeachable?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. What is impeachable? Name. I want.
What is it? Because right now I'm wondering what it is. You can tell a foreign leader to go investigate a political rival. You can send a crowd to ransack the Capitol. Man, it takes a lot to get impeached, apparently.
Yeah.
Or removed from office.
Another question similar to that, and maybe using it as the same line, if you'll allow it. Not only is what is impeachable, what's the last day your actions can get you impeached? Yeah. In other words, if you make it to December 1st, I looked it up. Clinton's first impeachment was a month and 3 weeks. Trump's first impeachment was a month and 2 weeks. So basically, if you get to let's say December 7th, they probably can't complete an impeachment. Right. So I guess
is there a January exception?
Yeah, January is just a free month. You can attempt to overthrow the government all January because it's impossible. Or by the way, anything else that's impeachable. If they said, well, if you were convicted of murder while you were president, that's impeachable because a murderer shouldn't also be president. Okay, but what if they commit the murder? What if they get convicted for murder on January 6th? Lucky them, they made it out the back.
Yeah.
That's in the free-for-all period. It used to be called lame duck. Now it's party animal. Your party animal period.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, Jeff, because one of the House managers brought up the precedent of someone who worked for Ulysses S. Grant did something wrong. So he quit his job before he got impeached because he thought, oh, well, I'll just quit so I can't get impeached because I've already quit. And they decided, no, that's not how it works. You can still be impeached after the fact, even though you're no longer in your office. So I guess they all forgot about that. Because otherwise they would do exactly what you were talking about, Jeff.
The Freemasons of Kansas changed their laws that they can expel someone who quit because the same thing would happen. Unfortunately, in a large organization, someone gets accused of molesting a child.
Yep.
And the person quits. And historically, what would happen is if nothing was followed through on, because there was no process to follow through on, that person could go to another state and join. That person could wait 10 years till everyone forgot and join a different lodge across the state, whatever. And so they had to change the rules that no, you can someone who's quit can still be expelled because that very reason.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
And this would be an honest, dry Sunday morning conversation question that you would ask 6 or 7 questions into Mr. Blunt or Mr. John Cornyn. I'm just thinking of some of these mugs that just make me want to.
Jeff has a handy list of them.
I do.
Sorry.
My boy Roger Marshall continues to piss me off, but we can go to that at the end if we want to.
So
today,
Mr. Rick,
chose trans athletes during
Senator Scott. Yeah. Quick question, Senator Scott: Should candidates and campaigns be able to raise campaign money for their insurrection plans now? Should that be something that all campaigns do?
Good one. Yeah.
I mean, that's a dry question, but it's on the table if they vote yes.
How about I want to write it as. Should candidates be able to raise funds for their insurrection planning process?
Yeah, literally.
Should senators help the defendant with preparing for trial when they are part of the jury?
Kelly's got a good one. I think this one is important. Boom.
Yeah.
Should politicians, senators, office holders, maybe be required to renew oath of office? I think that they do that every time there's a new Congress. They do it. Yeah. If so, how often? But that oath of office question really kicks off into how do you? I mean, is that enough? as I've been saying before about getting a job in, you know, even as a Lutheran pastor, it's psychological evaluations, it's background checks, it's financial background checks, it's all sorts of shit so that you have a position of trust. And once you have the position of trust, you can rock and roll. All we have to have is enough schleps to vote in a gerrymandered district for Jim Jordan, and he'll be back until he's an old man and quits.
Kelly may know her own answer, but I could be wrong. But I think Mitch McConnell would have gotten his oath of office the first time he was seated and never again. When you said every Congress they take the oath, I think we always see the swearing in of the new members. I think the sitting members, if you're reelected, I don't believe you renew your oath. First of all, from a legal standpoint, you wouldn't need to. You've already made that oath once.
If that's true, then that should be changed.
I'm speculating that Kelly says exactly. I mean, we saw the squad get sworn in because it was interesting and it was new, but I don't think they swear in 400 and some odd people every 2 years.
Mr. Clean comes up with
a
question, which actually was a theory of Marjorie Taylor Greene's, which was that some of the members, they weren't in fact members because they swore on the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore they were illegitimate.
Well, and I think he's actually put a twist on it by saying, if for those who swear on the Bible, are they going to hell now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's
so the guys that have broken their oath that they use the Bible, have they now committed a sin? It's a great question.
Yeah, it is a good question. It is. Because, I mean, what's important to them, to themselves, right?
This is a critical question, and we'll flip it into the second half of the show. We'll keep the list going as we go, but okay. Part of the theological answer, part of the legal answer is that we approach truth as if it exists outside. Traditionally, classically, historically, Western civilization has approached truth as something to find and hold. We have processes to find truth. We look at evidence. We ask questions. We rattle it around, and then once in a while, we touch greatness when we find a new truth, and then it recalibrates and affects, what we find. In this worldview that we're facing with Trump, in this bubble system around the Trump questions and lifestyle and political view, believes that they hold a truth that they've found and discerned and that there's no more looking. And so once you have it, it's a series of touch points around Trump as truth or conservative. My Make America Great Again is that ultimate truth, and everything has to bend to it.
Right.
Well, if you're a scientist, if you are in a relationship that lives past a year, you're going to learn that there's moments where you hold the truth, and then there's moments where you go, oh shit, I didn't know what I was talking about. I have to say I'm sorry, or I have to change, or I have to flow with what I find the truth to be that's outside of my experience.
Right.
In this nihilistic culture, which nihilism is the belief that there's nothingness, and so fuck it all. As again, a majority of these MAGA folks that are being arrested who literally went in were broke, mad, and pissed off that their franchise had ended. They're searching for truth, man. They're searching for truth. And so in the face of it, we've got this barrage of Trump bullshit. It's all rhetoric. It's all well-planned, timed grooming. If you look at those videos, it looks like his crowd had been groomed. Like a molester grooms a victim. This piece. They were all echoing it. They still are. They have no truth. So then when Trump loses, I saw a lot of these guys go on and start doing Bible studies online. I'm going to find out, goddamn it. I'm going to find you. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I found the truth.
Yeah.
They were also playing propaganda videos. I saw a propaganda professor that studies different propaganda videos, but they were playing these propaganda videos that had subliminal messaging in there. And interestingly enough, one of those videos, Trump retweeted a compressed portion of it during the insurrection. Yes. Another propaganda. And See, when you're looking at propaganda videos, if you're not really into it, just like a cult, to you it just kind of flies by as awkward, weird, nothing. But when you're bought in, you find every single time there's a subliminal message to you, it comes like it's right there. You can see it. And so they were groomed and they were trained. And another thing that we saw that they did a good job is they were also tested multiple times. He tested these things and said, oh, what if I do this? What happens? And he tested them and he approved them and tested them. And these rallies kept on growing and growing. And he figured out, if I say it this way and I say it this way, this is what I get. But the other thing that I find really interesting is they did not have a permit to walk to the Capitol. That permit was not there. The White House interfered and gave them that permit in the last minute. And I'm wondering, is that why there was not enough police there? Because originally they were like, well, they're not even going to be here. They're going to be like a couple of miles away.
Right.
And then the White House comes in and changes it and gives them a permit to go to the Capitol.
I heard that part where they said that the parade, the idea of the parade to the Capitol was when the Trump administration got involved, but I didn't hear the piece you're adding about the timeline. I thought that was Stop the Steal was planned December 28th, and then over the week before they added things. I mean, I don't know what the timing was.
Yeah, the Stop the Steal was planned for that location. They didn't have the permit to go and do the parade until the end. I don't remember the timeline, but the White House and allowed them to do that.
But we're literally supposed to believe that a rally with 100,000 people that was supposed to end at the Capitol.
Everyone goes home.
I mean, even the most convincing thing.
That's not insurrection. That the fact that you sent a crowd to the Capitol, the intentionally closed them, because right now they're counting the votes.
I think the time is actually very interesting, because if he wasn't going to do the insurrection, why didn't he do it at night after they did it? He did it and it lined up perfectly. Right after Pence did his thing, they were there. They even planned it to hit perfectly. There was you would think if they didn't really plan it, then maybe if it got out of hand and they started marching, it would be towards the end of the process.
Absolutely.
Or towards the beginning of the process where they didn't even start. They did it perfectly they allowed Pence to do his thing and found out he wasn't going to do it, and then they did it. The whole thing, the time, you can't just make up this time because their speeches are all written.
Well, and
how many people? Oh, go ahead.
The fact that Mike Pence, I think even Republicans are agreeing. Mike Pence had no ability to do anything, obviously, as Zach told us weeks before, and we've of course inferred through the annals of U.S. history that the Congress can't just suddenly say, "Nah, we'll just throw out an election." But so not only could Pence not have done anything, but the election wasn't stolen either. And he said both of those things right before they went charging off, and said all the other thing. We could go through all the speeches, and we don't need to do that here. The way they've laid this out, I mean, how does anyone go, I just don't think Trump caused it.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many of you have been to a political speech before and brought a combat helmet and wood and a noose and those sorts of things? Who goes to a rally, with jackets on, loaded up with all kinds of gear to confront others?
Who sees people at that said rally and stays at that rally?
Yeah.
Who's ever been to a rally where someone's got an American flag upside down on a pole on the lawn of the White House? Did you see that today?
Yeah, hockey
What
sticks.
is going on? You are listening to the President of the United States on the President of the United States backyard, and you're saying America's effed. I mean, what in the world are you talking about? You still had 2 weeks of your presidency left.
So that's where we are.
That's right.
That's where we are tonight. And I'm gonna pick a beef for a second. I'm gonna switch it up.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pick a beef that I've been watching all this stuff for a really long time. I've had lots of friendships with people on the far left, on farther left than I am. I still will respect and support those people and a lot of their dreams for a very, very progressive agenda. I share a lot of that. But I have noticed something about the left, and specifically the media on the left. And I'm going to call out Status Quo, and I'm going to call out the Young Turks a little bit. I'm going to call out some of the Periscopers who are online, who have essentially met this impeachment trial with an equivalent amount of cynicism and just irrelevance about it as those on the far right. And I'm noticing a lack of coverage. I'm noticing a lack of belief that anything can really happen. And the reason I lift this up is because one of the things that I err on the side of agreeing with people who are farther left than myself sometimes is because of the passion of the process and the passion of recognizing that it's a constitutional system that we have to uphold no matter what. And that's where I come down. I'm a liberal, but I'm a constitutionalist. And the fact that we're going through this time and there is a resistance or a bitching about Joe Biden's policies at this time, that's what I'm watching on some of these shows. That's what we're doing. I recognize keeping our eye on the ball in policy fights. I recognize fighting about the $2,000 in the nuance of the 600 to the 1,400. But I find that intellectually dishonest at this particular time that you're going to fill the void with a made up discussion about a $2,000 promise. So I'm picking a beef. I know I am. But I think that's a fair beef because we're fighting the fight right now. And if we lose this thing, I don't know, as we talked about earlier, what the hell is going to happen?
This is the same thing like what you're talking about. It's the same thing that the Republicans are afraid that their party is peeling off. We have the power right now to do good. We can't be peeling off right now on nitty-gritties of small policies because we need to keep this train going. And this is the problem. And interestingly enough, is a lot of the people that are complaining about the impeachment trial and the $2,000, they also understand politics, which is weird because they're not being fully honest with the public because they hit Joe Biden while they know for a fact that
it's completely made up. This idea, I'm picking on it right here. This idea that it was $2,000 more than the $600 has never been said. Never. You can't find anywhere where that was said. Yeah, that's a completely made up, far left ruse.
Yeah, and don't forget, they're going to bring up the Warnocks. Don't forget that the Warnocks were running on the $2,000 before the $600 was passed.
Right.
So they got $600. But again, this is where I'm talking about Mr. Clean, and you're not being honest because you know that this is not a Joe Biden thing. He doesn't have the votes.
And I feel like this is a move.
You getting 2,000, it's you getting nothing. He doesn't have the votes. We don't have 55 Democratic senators where we could just peel off 3 and go, you know what, Joe Manchin, move on. I don't care. You don't have that. You are right in the middle. You have to use Harris to pass things. He doesn't have the votes. And you guys know it, and you're beating him up for something that is not solvable. It's not solvable. It's not fair because the other side is giving you nothing. Nothing. So while they're covering you for being a socialist, you're beating up the same side for not giving you $2,000 while knowing it's not his. This is the best he can do to make sure it's done.
Jeff, I don't want to dominate. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Bernie Sanders put in a bill in May to give everybody $2,000 a month. It went nowhere. Why didn't Bernie Sanders deliver this money in May? I mean, it's a childish argument.
I think this is the opposite of gaslighting. I think that this particular junction of the left playing this game right now is gaslighting. It's okay. So here's the other way I look at it is I'm hearing from the far left that, oh man, I can't wait until we get a real progressive president. Baby, I'm telling you, this is it. This is it. get a more progressive president after this if the policies take off and they work and people see them coming. But Joe Biden is it. He's the chance.
Yeah.
And he's really progressive, man.
And he's actively fighting for money for American people.
Let me just rattle off some shit that this non-progressive guy's done so far. So climate change. How many progressives are against that, right? He has executive order to promote racial equality. I could go into the details of that. It was overturning a couple of things from the previous administration. He ended the ban on U.S. entry for majority of Muslim countries. Executive order requiring mask wearing on federal property. Executive order coordinating a government-wide COVID-19 response. And he came up with his goal of doing so many shots in so much time. He's revised the immigration enforcement policies. He stopped the rerouting of funds to the wall, to things that are more meaningful to progressive peoples. Executive order incorporating undocumented immigrants into the census. That would be a progressive. That's important to progressive people. Executive order banning discrimination on the basis of gender, identity, or sexual orientation. He's allowing people of all stripes to, for lack of a better word, to join the military. He's reinforced his mandating this ethics pledge that he won't have any members of his own family in his government. I could just keep going on. Pausing federal student loans till September. Because there's only so much he can do. Obviously, some laws will have to get passed, and they have to be dealt with in the legislative branch. But until that work starts, here's all the things that are going to be done. Memorandum strengthening deferred action for childhood arrivals. That was day one. I've got day two here. I could keep going. You guys all know all the other things that were done. Executive order strengthening public health supply chain. I think Ace can probably speak to the new thing that he's doing. He's to help more Americans get coverage. He reopened the window, right, for signing up for healthcare. Oh my God! I can't wait till we get a real progressive in office.
Right.
I mean, everything I just named? This is my last point, and I'm going to get ranty about it. It's just that if President AOC was president right now, wouldn't she have done all those things? Isn't this what you would expect from her to do? He's doing all the things that you would expect from a President Bernie Sanders. He's doing all the things you would expect from any progressive president. You would want them to do all those things, and he is doing them. So then you go through the list, and my God, it's a big list. You want me to keep going? It would clog up the rest of the show tonight if I kept listing them all off. And then you're going to go, oh, I found it. It was under this pile. He didn't do this one thing. It's just one right at the very, very bottom. He didn't do this one little thing right here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that shit for 3 days. Come on, get the hell out of here.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
Yeah,
and I'm not picking a fight. I am not picking a fight with my lefty friends. They're picking a fight with this victory. Yeah. Sorry, Ace.
We just got here and we're already doing this. If you want to share this Axios is reporting this.
Yes, sir.
This is before anything. Look at this. Joe Biden is going to expand ACA and allow people. He's basically expanding how much you make on poverty level, making people making up to 150% of the federal poverty rate would be eligible for free healthcare. 150% free healthcare. Like that, executive order. He also capped the other number. If you make more than that, you don't pay more than 8.5% of your income. So that got capped as well. So just with one little order, you're just adding essentially 50 or 60% more people to ACA without even passing anything.
Also, this isn't Medicare for all, but it's Medicaid for a bunch of people.
Exactly.
It's a different phraseology, but it was not Medicare for all where you could buy in. This is free healthcare for a lot of people. That's a pretty good deal, man.
That's here, fully subsidized plans. That means no cost.
Wish we could get a progressive.
The cool thing about that is one thing that if you're more towards the center, this is not even Medicare. That's 100% subsidized of your choice because you're going to have a couple of options to pick from as well. And if you want to upgrade, you can do that as well. So it's not. It's a great idea without even getting any votes. He's already done it.
Think about this, progressives. Joe Biden is proposing free health care for a year if you're unemployed.
Yeah.
I never heard Bernie Sanders have the courage to say that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying that we're not picking on progressives. We're saying he's doing all the things that you want, the things that you would expect from a President AOC. Come on. This is what you would want from a president who is a progressive.
And don't
forget, the problem is that he just doesn't have the title. Come on.
We don't have kings, which is the other issue that I have with Bernie people, is they always forget about the process of, hey, we don't have kings. Joe Biden can't just come in here and go Medicare for all. He can't do that. He has to have the votes. And
you know what?
Just have the votes. They're going.
I got to interrupt. You know what else he has? And this is something that the MAGA folks just never figured out. He has 47 years of working in the Senate to know how to do this.
Right.
That's what scares them so much. Is in a post-apocalyptic Trump Republican Party where it's going to, I think we'll get to our predictions later, but I think broken glass is the model of the future. He's going to know how to pick up votes. He's going to help you find your home. Oh, leave that up. I'm just ranting.
It's a great policy, and it's done without even worrying about votes or anything like that. Just like that, it's a great policy. And if you're upset at this type of policy, if you're left, right, then you're not really part of the community. Because if you really get upset about, more people getting health care over the poverty level, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Again, if Joe Biden had signed something that says, hey, we want to start fracking everywhere, then please jump in, my friends on the left, and go, how dare Joe Biden? But the fact is, every policy he has passed is very progressive. Is it ice cream for breakfast progressive? No, but it is ice cream for dinner.
No, I feel like the butler.
Jeff, leave this running.
I feel like the server at a ritzy restaurant who's literally waited on someone hand and foot, brought everything, did everything. You wanted 1.5 ice cubes. I did that. I did all the things, and then you're like, I just wasn't satisfied about one thing, and it's just like, what else do you want me to do? I did everything. I mean, I did everything that you would expect, someone to do in an establishment like this.
It's because we get on our own search for our own truth piece and not recognizing what is going on right now. And so the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, and I'm sure that I saw Brady drunk yesterday, which was kind of funny. And I'm sure they've taken maybe a week off, but most NFL teams, coaches don't even take that full week off. They're back in at work because in their world, there's only 51 weeks left, or 50 and a half weeks left to get ready for the next Super Bowl. And that's their call. And so this is why this matters.
Yeah. This is huge.
This is the power running out. This is the power clock. This is how long Joe Biden has the power of the presidency until it's him or someone else or whoever. This is what he's got.
And honestly, you should, Jeff, can you put up a second timer in 2 years? Because he really only has 2 years, because we don't know what will happen in 2 years.
Right.
If he loses the Senate and loses the House, then it's really 2 years worth. So he has 2 years to get everything important done.
1,438 days.
There you go. So
now if
and
you
that
lose,
time is clicking. Go ahead.
Yeah.
How's that?
I was just going to say, and if Joe Biden loses his election, we will have to start a new timer on January the 1st for when his January exemption starts, where he can raid the Capitol and do whatever the fuck he likes and tear shit up, because there's not enough time to really do anything about it or hold him accountable. So we'll have we'll have another timer starting in January 1st. If he doesn't win in November.
So I'm done with my rant about the left, but I'm going to come back to this whenever I hear it, because we don't have time for those games. If you're that serious about finding a that far left person and you're just so upset and you're just not going to play along until then we're not allies politically. We might be friends, but we're not political allies, because I know, because I was a kid campaigning for Tom Harkin in 1987 in Iowa for the 1988 presidential campaign. And I remember Joe Biden in Iowa Falls, Iowa, a few floats down from the Harkin campaign. And there were a few other campaigns there, because that was the year after that was the end of Ronald Reagan in 1988. 1987 into 88 was the end of Reagan.
What was
all
the
these
candidate?
people, all these guys were in play then, and Joe Biden was there, and he's made a lot of fucking mistakes, and he's learned a lot of lessons, and he's not a perfect man, but he is a person he's a servant of the truth. When there's something before him, he'll aim it. He's not lying to us anymore about how bad our situation is. For instance, with COVID, like he's straight up like, I can't fucking hide this shit. It's too big to hide. I'm not that good of a liar.
But while he's not, have you noticed that we're almost halfway to his goal? We're almost at 50 million vaccines.
And he bought enough today for the whole country.
And last, when was the last time we saw Trump do a town hall? Joe Biden's about to have a town hall with actual. I guarantee you, there's going to be actual questions and actual answers, and they won't include the words easy, great, fast, the best, and
millions.
It won't include any of these words.
There won't be any fluffers.
Yeah.
The last time we saw a Trump town hall, he said we're going to get through COVID with herd mentality. So,
MAGA fluffers. It's MAGA fluffers. The word fluff up. Yeah, MAGA fluffers.
You ready? The best is yet to come.
Donald Trump. It's the MAGA fluffer.
They all yell into the microphone. Everyone right of the center of the Republican Party, I guess, has to yell into freaking microphones. Drives me completely insane. I'm done.
Marty, what was the name of the campaign you worked on? Sorry, what was the individual's name?
I was a kid, but it was Tom Harkin. He was a senator from Iowa. And
was he like the Bernie of the group at the time?
He was a lefty in ag policy. He was pretty as much as far left as they were around in that era. There were some others, but he was right there.
Yeah. I worked on. Now his name escapes me because I'm thinking about it. He was the governor from Vermont. It was 2004. What's his name? Of course, I'm on camera. I'm on camera now, so his name escapes me. Even though I worked on the.
You'll think of it as soon as
it was the guy that screamed. Howard
Dean.
Howard Dean.
You worked for Dean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Howard Dean came to Atlanta, and he came to my school at the time, Georgia State, and I helped work with him and everything else. And at the time, Howard Dean was sort of considered like the Bernie-ish kind of guy, not because he was from Vermont, but simply because he was a doctor, he had a very strong healthcare policy, and I was all about it. So just funny that I got a story. We got room for everyone across the spectrum, right?
Yeah, well, and so Harkin ran for president in 88, and then he ran and won in 90. He ran re-election to the Senate, and so then he ran again in 94 in the beginning of the 90. What am I trying to say? The Clinton. So it would have been 91. I was at Iowa State University. He graduated with political science from Iowa State and went on to get his law degree at Drake. And I was a poli-sci student. And so at wintertime break, he sent a thing to all the poli-sci students. Hey, if you want to come to New Hampshire and politic and run around for me, we're doing a bus. We'll pick you up. Mm-hmm. So me and a buddy, we jump on that bus and we go up to New Hampshire for about, 10 days, sleeping in people's houses, doing a lot of canvassing, just crazy, cold, nuts. But they were all there, and that was when Bill Clinton won, and he was in Nashua when we were in Nashua. Jerry Brown was there, and there was just a whole bunch of this shit going on because there were Republicans at the same time as well. And one time we saw Bill Clinton, and he's walking along, and he's about to get in his car, And we were totally for Harkin. We were all about, leftist politics, man. And Clinton's walking along and he's going to get his card. We're like, hey, Clinton. And he's just like, hey, guys, how you doing? And we're like, you're a fucking bum, dude. You're a bum, Clinton. And he's just like, hey, guys, good to see you, man. He gets in his car, drives away. And it was just like, he's a politician. He didn't give a shit what we said. It was like, it was like a major league pitcher who just didn't flinch.
He's definitely a pro.
And I'm glad I said what I said because, fuck it. I was a college student, and I'm like, what are you going to say to a guy? He wasn't the president yet anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Fun shit. Back to where we are. I don't know. Ace, you got more? You had some stuff. You were going to talk about a couple polls, maybe. Did you have more?
Well, I did show the polls for the impeachment. I think that's really – I don't want to keep on talking about the trial, but the polls for impeachment, unfortunately, are just not that great. And I think the reason for this, and it's no one to really blame, is there's no real bombshell because we lived it. We saw it all happen. So there really hasn't been any new revelations that you can go, oh, my God, I didn't know that. There's small stuff. But the fact is we didn't really get enough where we didn't get enough. We didn't get a bombshell. And I'm questioning what the next
I have a pastor question.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was saying the other day in some comments, I didn't get to celebrate my birthday. I didn't get to celebrate Biden's victory because of the way it went down. And I really didn't get to celebrate the inauguration or something like this because of the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, and I think that's important to recognize, we haven't had a chance to celebrate any of these things. And so emotionally, we've not had the uplifting nature of anything that's happened. Likewise, shit has been happening to us over and over again. Trauma has been happening to us over and over again, and we haven't had a chance to process it. And so the 6th happens. Congress runs around for a few days scandalously saying, oh, are we going to impeach? Are we not going to impeach? And now we finally made it to the impeachment piece. And I feel like this trauma happened and that this was supposed to be the vetting of it. And half of the country is ignoring the vetting of it, which means we're never going to deal with it. That's a guarantee that it's going to happen again, dude.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think Ted Lieu today, my favorite subject, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's basically like, I'm not afraid of Donald Trump running again. I'm afraid of him running and losing.
That's just in denial after denial after denial.
It's this whole thing where we just go, oh, no, he didn't really do it. Or, nah, so what? Let him move on. I heard one of the jurors on the Republican side, I think it was Mike Lee, that said we should give him a mulligan. A mulligan. He used that word on TV. This is the problem, is we've gotten to the point to where there is nothing you can say to the Republicans that Republicans go, wow, that's shameful. Really? A mulligan? You're going to talk about multiple people dying, cops being beat up, 146 of them getting hurt, eyes, and you're talking about mulligan? This is how little respect you have for the process. And, that's why I'm kind of hoping that, I hope that they can figure something out where they fight a little dirty, they pull out a little trick. I don't know if they have any more tricks, because right now it just seems like it's going down the path of, we know what will happen and we're out of control. We don't have any more control over it. And I hope that they have a trick up their sleeve. They have the only thing they can have right now is witnesses. And I don't know. I'm kind of teetering on both. I want witnesses, and then part of me just goes, maybe it's just better to just get this thing done with and let's move on. But then I fall into the trap that you're talking about, Marty, is I'm allowing it to just go, you know what? It's not going to happen. Let's just move on. We're done with it. I'll take the loss, which is the exact same thing how elections get. If you keep on beating up on the elections and saying they're not real, people will just stop voting and they'll go, oh, I know how it's going to end. Putin will win. I don't need to go vote. It doesn't matter anymore. And this is the problem, where I really hope that the Democrats and their team figures out a way to, even if it's a Hail Mary, I want them to claw and fight until they'll end. And don't let the Republicans just end this thing because they could. And last point, if you started in the beginning of this trial, the Republicans pulled off, or the Trump's team, they manipulated how long this trial will be twice. What they did, if you didn't hear about it, is they basically said, oh, we have a lawyer that can't work on Fridays and Saturdays because of a religious belief. And they extended the trial by a whole week while negotiating, because they said, that's 2 days, we'll work 6 days, we want 3 weeks. So they negotiated for the trial to be 3 weeks, adding the 6 days for Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. They got the deal, and then the Trump lawyer came back and said, you know what, never mind that, we figured it out, he'll just take over, we don't need that 1 week, and manipulated it back down to 2 weeks.
Yep.
Now, theoretically, the deal is still intact. They can keep on going, but I'm wondering, what do you guys think on witnesses? Because I want witnesses. Now, I'm sure there's some people that don't want witnesses because witnesses can be bad.
Well, I think we moved into that. I think we moved into that. I think we moved into that realm tonight with Senator Cassidy from Louisiana, starting to name the questions he was going to need to have asked in order to acquit. Essentially, that's what he said.
Yeah.
That beginning of that piece of the process fixed on with whatever train wreck tomorrow is going to look like from Trump's attorneys to try to, say, well, it's going to be false equivocation salad all day long. It's just going to be gross. I think it's
going to be like only 4 hours, and they're just done.
Fair enough. They have 16, by the way. They could argue for 16.
And they said,
but they're
nope,
choosing not to because it's going to be terrible.
To Mike Lee's point, by the way, mulligans are against the rules of golf, just FYI.
But that's not a problem for Mike Lee. He doesn't mind breaking the rules. That's the thing. This is just
mulligans. Trump gets mulligans because he's a cheater. And I would also argue to Mike Lee, I mean, how many mulligans? Because, are you really going to try and tell us this would be his mulligan? This one? This is his mulligan? I mean, the list is over here on the floor. I mean,
also, I got a quick question.
He just wasn't his mulligan. I mean,
why does Trump need a mulligan? Isn't that very in essence of agreeing that he did it? Why would he need a mulligan if he didn't do this?
Right.
I thought that similar to that point. You know how all these 16 senior top members of the White House quit after this January 6th? Why did they quit?
Yep.
Why did they quit? Why did they quit? Were they upset about Donald Trump? I mean, obviously it was Donald Trump. They quit Donald Trump's White House. There's got to be a reason, right?
They're an ultra lame duck. They had 2 weeks left. They just had to sit there for 2 weeks. It was ultra lame duck. I mean, it was totally over. Just sit there for 2 weeks. So yeah, I still hold out hope. Number one, for Stephen Miller or somebody that actually has a lot of technical upfront information from current real time to come in and say, yeah, I saw XYZ, absolutely was ecstatic. When we were telling him he should be taking action to stop it, he said, why? This is awesome. I hold out hope. I mean, it seems like that hope has almost completely disappeared based on the rules that are laid out. But I mean, I guess the other part is when you talk about a mulligan, when Mr. Lee talks about a mulligan, if he's already out of office and they're basically saying, so it's silly to do impeachment anyway, because he's already out of office, then who needs a mulligan from just not being allowed to be president again? You know what I mean? It's not like, again, like everyone keeps saying, it's not this impeachment doesn't put him in jail. This impeachment doesn't convict him of something. It just says, you know what? You've already left office, so we obviously don't need to remove you. We're barring you from running again. So not being able to be president again is too much of a punishment for Mike Lee. I mean, that's really odd that Republicans would vote. This is the easiest yes vote. This is probably the most likely affirmative vote we've ever had for an impeachment because the guy's already gone. All you are literally doing is saying he's bad enough he should never be president again. Not he has to leave. Not he has to pack his stuff.
Jeff, that's a gold mine that's not going to happen, dude. Even if he loses again, it's a gold mine. Even if he's never going to run again at this point, to feign that there could be a chance that he runs again kills Mike Lee's cash supply, dude.
Yeah.
They're running on hope, baby. QAnon-fueled hope.
I can't think 100 years being even associated with Trump won't be complete political suicide. He is going down in flames. The Trump Titanic is already sinking, And these guys literally are saying we probably shouldn't let Trump be president. By the way, we shouldn't let Trump be president again when he'll be, 82 or something? I mean, it seems irrational to believe he could even run again, literally and figuratively. And you're going to, I don't think we should bar him from running again, even though he'd be a geriatric.
I think that they're calculating that why did they need to take him out when they know he's going to have a roller coaster in the next couple of months, and they're calculating, don't worry, the law will take him out anyways. Why do I have to do it and run through the airport and be Lindsey Graham and get that? That's the answer. A lot of them are now just going, well, I mean, maybe he should be prosecuted. I don't know that,
I think you're absolutely right, Ace. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that
his lawyers basically said that at the first.
That's why there's two comfortable chairs that these guys get to sit in. There's the comfortable chair at the airport where they travel to and fro, which is nice to have that be a comfortable moment. Read your book, check your email, whatever. And then there's the comfortable chair on Face the Nation on Sunday morning, or on PBS NewsHour, or on CNN. And what this has nothing to do with politicians. This has all now to do with a push on media to say you cannot legitimize Mike Lee ever again without these sort of questions.
Right.
And I could read them, but we're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
One of them would be, Mike Lee, what is your current belief in the QAnon theory about Democrats drinking blood? And then put the goddamn microphone in his face until he answers.
Right.
Oh, you don't believe in that right now. Okay, great. Next question. Because then we can get on with policy questions, because I don't know what your crazy index is today.
Yeah.
And then you can also add the impeachment thing. It needs to be like the Iraq vote for their future. Every single time Donald Trump goes down and there's more information, because trust me, when this thing is over, they're going to have to do, I've already said they need to have a special Mueller type of investigator that investigates January 6th and has a broad spectrum where Biden can go, I'm not part of it. Let him run everything. And that guy goes into every pocket and every phone call, and he looks at Mike Lee's phone and text messages. He looks at Tubby Tuberville's phone and text messages. Yep. And they're going to start digging up. And then when that stuff comes out and you go, hey, you remember that time? With this information you have now, do you regret voting for this? Just like the Iraq vote. It happened to them, and they're going to have to drop him. And like Jeff said in the beginning, it's really all about egg on your face. And I've been telling all the Trump people I know, you got to drop him. He's going to put so much egg on your face. You need to drop him, because you are going to be backing up for the rest of your life. We're going to be like, hey, you see this, you see this, you see this, and you're going to be going backwards and backwards and backwards. And eventually,
only if we change our behavior. Only if we have to recognize that they cannot be shamed, and therefore it's not a matter of shaming, it's a matter of credibility. It's a matter of, are you able to have a conversation? Are you a cogent human being? I can't trust that you are of all your faculties and that's a level of disrespect that they've earned, and yet it's a level of respect that I can give, because I can't give more than that.
Yeah. How great would it be? How great would it be for a Fox reporter to ask a Biden press secretary a question, and they go, well, normally I'd answer a question from anybody in the press corps, but you yourself were pushing hydroxychloroquine 3 months after it was told to be dangerous to people with COVID. So I'm not going to give you the answer you're asking for, because I don't think you're a journalist. I think you're a conspiracy theorist or whatever. I mean, that wouldn't be quite the right avenue for it, but it would be nice to take some of these hosts on Fox and just say, you're going to come after me when you've literally pushed the MyPillow guys medical treatment plan for 2 years. I mean, for a year, what you're out of your gourd. You said this, you said that, you said this, you use this defense when Trump was putting kids in cages, and you're going to come at me, because here's what's going to happen. They're going to come trust me, if we think the left saying these $1,400 checks is a lie, let's not get our ruffled too bad, because just wait. Once the impeachment's over, the right's going to come did you know one of Joe Biden's German Shepherds was picked up from a shelter, but the owner went to pick it up a week later, and they fought giving the dog back to the original owner. I mean, they're going to come up with some just ridiculous little conspiracy like that. We're all going to be sitting there going,
remember how long Benghazi was litigated?
Right.
My goodness. And they put Hillary on the stand for freaking 2 days.
That's all in the past. We have to unify. You can't. You can't just investigate.
4 people died in Benghazi. We need someone needs to be held accountable.
Well, and that's important.
Well, the Capitol building got ransacked. It's time to move on.
5 people died. 5 people died in the Capitol. So if you're so upset about Benghazi, which by the way, Benghazi was also ambassadors outside of their embassy being overrun by an angry crowd, that is a pretty one-time type situation versus a presidential rally during their presidency that overran the Capitol. So let's go back in Benghazi and nitpick. Did Hillary Clinton send an email to her daughter that it was a movie, that it was September 11th anniversary extremists, while she was telling the world it was about a movie? Versus can any president do anything they want starting January 1st? I mean, they talk about slippery slope. This isn't even a slippery slope argument. They are literally saying if you can't complete an impeachment trial before the end of someone's term, you can't impeach them. That is lunacy. You were talking about literally the peaceful transition of power timeline. That's a free zone. You can just do whatever you want. It's complete and total lunacy. And I personally hope that the Democrats are playing hardball and saying, if you give us impeachment, we'll call it dead. Trump dies.
Right.
The whole thing dies with him.
That's the alternative.
You don't give us impeachment, Tuberville's going to be on the stand. Freaking Lee's going to be on the stand. Lindsey Graham's going to be in the stand. We are going to drag these guys in front of the House for the next 2 years to get to
those will get better ratings. Those will get better ratings than this does.
Tuberville, why were you at the Trump Hotel January 5th at a party Donald Trump was throwing? And then why did you lie about it January 6th?
Right.
What was discussed at that party that you wouldn't want to tell the truth that you were there? Well, we have this witness about what was discussed in your presence. Here's the main speaker there who said this happened. And this guy's not president anymore, so Trump can't protect these guys. Now, I'm sure a senator can plead the fifth in some way or another, but.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that as part of maybe if they don't call witnesses, I hope that the impeachment managers point out that this impeachment trial got done in a week, less than a week. The Trump managers only had about 4 hours or 6 hours total of presentation, and the whole fraud that they pushed on us that they can't rush this impeachment that fast and they can't get it done. And Mitch McConnell pushed it to give Trump impeachment lawyers more time. And then while he pushed it, then he voted that it's unconstitutional because Trump is out of office.
Right.
Fictitiously moving that time zone, that timeline. This is the issue. I hope that I hope that there's more of a hoopla in the end, and we don't just go down going, well, we tried our best. I want there needs to be more witnesses. Blow it up. You got 1 more week. You don't have to use 3 weeks, but you got a week. Go blow it up for a week. Call Mike Lee now. Call Tuberville now. Tell them not. I don't even care if they don't come. Subpoena Mike Pence. I don't care if he doesn't come.
Well, that raises a great question. If you ask someone in the House, you ask someone who's sitting in the Senate to come before the Senate and answer questions, what can he just bolt for the door? I mean, he's already there. He can't say, I'm not coming. Sergeant at Arms, please bring this microphone over to Tuberville. We have a question for him. What did you talk to Donald Trump about on January 5th? He just goes, I'm not here.
Well, and the fact is there were 15 senators who missed the morning session, much of the morning session. There were the senators who went in to talk to the managers. There could be other moves that expel some of these clowns as well. And here's the crazy thing. It's 2/3 of the vote of who's in the room.
Is it really?
Yes. When the vote is taken, it's not all senators. It's not, we'll have to wait for this vote until Old Man River gets in from Alaska. It's, if you're not here or if you're not eligible, you didn't vote.
Well, it's funny because there were 17 guys that weren't there today.
Yep.
So maybe you just do that.
So maybe you just shut the door, lock the door.
Seriously. This is the kind of courage that it might take to be like, you know what, you weren't in here.
So there's no quorum requirement. Yeah, I'm sure
it is a quorum of the it is a quorum of the jurors present.
But it's got to be scheduled. I'm sure the vote has to be scheduled. You can't just do it in the middle of the night. In other words, you have to say it's going to be Wednesday at noon.
Well, there's technically they're not supposed to stop it. It's supposed to be nonstop business of impeachment until it's done.
Officially, they're supposed to be in the room by penalty of prison.
But I mean, they have to.
But they know that it's never going to get enforced. But every single morning, when the sergeant at arms reads out, I guess after the chaplain gives his prayer. Right. He says, hear ye by penalty. This is the impeachment of Donald Trump Jr. II, blah, blah. So they all leave knowing that they're not supposed to. They can't say, well, we didn't know we couldn't be here.
Right. Well, I mean, they have to urinate and things. I mean, I don't think you can just wait until 5 of them leave and then, okay, we're voting right now.
Well, apparently Republicans urinate a lot because 17 of them all needed to urinate at the same time for a long-ass time today.
Maybe this is proof they're full of shit.
17 would make it 83, and you'd still need 2/3, right?
Yeah, 2/3 of 83. But I mean, I don't know how many are going to be out of the room at that time. I'm sure they'll all come back.
I still think that, and I know you
56.
guys. How many?
56.
There you go.
Really close.
We got 56, probably.
That's crazy. That's a great theory. What if those 17 just don't participate for the rest of the time?
See,
that is interesting.
I don't think it'll happen, but it's like, hey, man.
My wife was upset that those guys weren't there. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Think about it. They've already made up their mind, so why have them there anyway?
I do think Birdman might be right.
And you're trying to convince the people that are there, the ones that are doing that, being diligent and sitting in the room. So if they leave, great. We're not talking to them anyway. They were already like numbskulls.
I think Birdman might be right. There's like a cloakroom or something that's basically like a clubhouse, I think, where they can actually sit and.
Oh, there are those, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know that they were there. I mean, some of these guys, I don't know what they were doing, right?
Well, I know. Well, some of them were helping the guys prep. So they were like, man, we better help them because they did such a. I mean, if we haven't talked about it so far, but they did such a rotten job. The Trump's lawyers did such a rotten job on the first day. I think they're terrified that those two clowns are going to go up there, Castor, and make an embarrassment of themselves. And then they're not going to give anything for the senators to latch onto. They're like, give me something. Give me a freaking stick shoot. Jesus Christ, you killed me.
I'm sure they handed them a list of things that they want to be able to say. So, work these into your things. Get up there, say these 15 sentences, and then get the F out of there because you guys are so terrible. Just let us then expound on all the things you've said, ask leading questions and stuff. But you got to get this stuff on the record so we can ask these questions.
Jeff, and are they doing that for Donald? Are they having phone calls with this crazy man in Mar-a-Lago who's saying no?
I really doubt it.
That's what.
They're just doing the method of help me help you.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
You guys are making a monster assumption here.
Oh yeah,
why?
No, I think they're saving Trump's ass without his involvement.
Help himself.
I think they're saving Trump's ass without his involvement. That's my opinion.
Okay. They just know the game.
You already know that Donald Trump fired the previous team of lawyers because, and then this team of lawyers, like the guy on the first day said, "Look, the president already lost the election. What was he going to do next? Blah blah blah." And it's like, Donald Trump wouldn't want a lawyer saying that.
All right, so let's pull back. Okay.
Lindsey Graham calls Donald Trump. What do you think we should do? What do you think we should do?
What was the
I did not lose the election.
What was the Kevin McCarthy meeting for then? If they're not still playing ball with Trump, when did the
I don't think we're saying he's not playing ball with Trump. I'm saying with respect to this trial right now, those senators left the room to assist Donald Trump's lawyers because they're not very good at their job. And Ted Cruz, as much as I hate him, is probably a lot better. He went to Princeton Law.
So there's some of that. There's some of that probably helping out, but there's also, as you're saying, there's also we got to have something to say. So you better fit my needs into your rhetoric.
Sure. Give me my escape trapdoor that says.
Give me my trapdoor. But what if the lawyer goes, dude, your trapdoor conflicts with the Donalds, and that's where I'm kind of thinking, no, they're probably their trapdoor is.
That's why I'm saying they've already said a faux pas against the Donald because they said on the first day. One of his arguments was the American people have already removed a president from office because he lost the election.
He said it like 3 times.
He said it 3 times, which is definitely the Donald would never want his lawyer to say that.
And think about it this way.
Okay.
These three or four senators, they're having lunches and dinners and conversations with these other senators. And those other senators are probably telling him, oh man, that video hurt, or this, or I wish we need to hit this. This is a problem. So it's like they have inside information that they're giving to the lawyers and going, I've talked to my 50 senator friends, and this is what they're not liking. Just hit these 2 facts. They don't like this that was mentioned that's giving them issues, and they don't like this that the Democrats mentioned. This is their headache. Hit this only. That's why. So they're going to pinpoint tomorrow and go, okay, we were told, Lindsey told us he doesn't like the videos. He doesn't like Trump saying this, and this, and they're just going to pinpoint exactly what it is.
All right, we got 2 comments in the group. I'm going to pull up one from Birdman, one from Blue Strat. It's a fair question. Let's do this. The first one is, I expect to hear about election fraud without directly saying election fraud. And then Blue Strat comments, they don't want it to say it because of the Smartronic and Dominion have deep pockets. What an interesting element of what we're going to hear tomorrow.
They're not going to do the election fraud thing. They don't need it.
Okay, okay. Are you serious? Because
yeah, they're not.
This could be the fault line of the Republican Party. Then it could happen tomorrow.
Even if you say election fraud, it's still insurrection. I mean, what does election fraud buy you? I sound like an idiot.
It holds on to. It gives. Even though you are an idiot, it gives the base something to hold on to. And up until now, they've never stopped feeding the base.
It does give the base that whole thing where we didn't actually lose, we won, but you have to keep fighting. You see how hard it is to fight. We did all that fighting, we won, and they still took it away. So now we have to fight harder. It gives them that, but
that's
I don't
what I'm trying to get to.
That because they just want this thing done with, and there's no point of going and hitting that.
And it violates their own opening argument. It violates.
So Senator Cassidy yesterday says that he goes, I still got people in my district saying that that we, the election was stolen, and he's as a Republican in Louisiana now all of a sudden going, well, that's just outlandish that they're still saying that. We need to get past that. If tomorrow part of this argument is that's a split in that party right there.
It is, but
if it's not argued, I suppose it's a split too.
Yeah, I think for the first time in a while, I am really, really proud of the Democratic Party finally branding things correctly, because this whole brand of the big lie is
it ice cream time, Jeff?
It's excellent.
I wish you invited me,
dude. It's ice cream time.
It's ice cream time.
Damn.
So the party branded 2 things. They said January exception. Right. Which is a great branding move, and the big lie, which they've repeated it over and over and over and over. Now it's branded that. So now when someone starts talking about election fraud, you go, oh, you're talking about the big lie? Really? We're going to go into the big lie and see it's over. It's over. It's a non-starter. And I just don't think the Republicans even want to keep on battling this because it's the loser.
And again,
but 90% of their people believe it. Ace.
But where does that argument go? What's the next sentence? There was election fraud, so he shouldn't have even been. There should never have been decided that he should be replaced, and so then there never would have been an insurrection. I mean, I just don't see how that. I mean,
it basically makes it where you're not if you do that, you're starting up another fire where you don't need one. They're trying to calm the fire down.
The election fraud.
That's why it's only going to be 3 or 4 hours. They just want it done with. Move on. Because the fact is, every single time the Democrats have their time, they're showing you videos and facts, and it's damning for Donald Trump for the past 3 days. The longer they keep this thing moving, the worse it is. And I'm pretty sure if they go election fraud, the Democrats will have no choice other than to fight it even more. They go, oh, you brought up that can of worms. Well, we're going to have to clean this up, and we'll just keep on extending it. And since you brought up election fraud, we're going to have to get a Dominion voting guy on the record. He's going to be our witness, and we're going to have to get the Georgia guy on record. You opened up a new can of worms. I don't think they're going to want to do that because
all these Republicans
ability for witnesses
from the night they did the electoral college votes till now. Every time they get one of these Republicans together, why did you object? By the way, CNN has asked them, why did you object to the election results? Why would you do that? Well, in those two states, there were state officials that weren't the state legislature that changed rules, and therefore I felt it was important that we use the rule of law that voting rules should only be changed by those state legislatures. Not one of them has said, I felt there was fraud in Arizona and Pennsylvania. Not one of them. They've all said on the floor during the objections and in every interview since, they have said, I felt election laws were changed by inappropriate authorities, and that's why I objected. And so now, after all these interviews and all this time, suddenly the Trump lawyers are going to get up and say, well, and then there's the election fraud, and all of a sudden all the Republicans are going to be like, yeah, there's election fraud. I mean, and then, of course, the Dems are going to say, if you guys are going to use election fraud as a defense, bring us your evidence. Bring us evidence.
I agree with you, Jeff. I want to say this, though.
That's the part.
The lawyer works for Trump. And tonight, they're talking deep into the night, probably early into the morning, about what's going to be said. And I guarantee Trump is right now arguing, you better be bringing up election fraud. And maybe you're right. Maybe the Mike Lees in the room and others are like, you can't. And they're having these throwdowns. But here we are, gang. This is literally the rubber meeting the road on this conversation.
To me,
it's going to happen tomorrow.
I would let them, if they do that, I'd let them run down that road as long as they wanted until they ran out of air. And then I would get up and say, okay, so the Capitol insurrection led by Donald Trump, let's vote. In other words, you could even prove election fraud. It's still, I mean, barring literally proving enough election fraud to reverse the election, which I don't believe anyone has a stack that high, barring actually proving that all the states that would be required to flip the election had enough fraud to flip the election, even if you proved all that, it's still an insurrection because the election results were certified through the proper methods and Biden was elected. So, I mean, I guess if your long game is making Biden look like a fake president or something like that, and you figure all you have to do is get to the vote anyway, so let's make some sort of political arguments, that's probably a reason why you might do it. But, boy, I sure think that's the only way you might get – I think that might be the only way you get him impeached is to go back to fraud. Because I am not hearing any Republicans say fraud for quite a while. I haven't heard anybody. Cruz is the closest one with that whole fight.
The corporate people are not happy with them either on that whole fraud thing.
It's just such a non-starter.
It's not a moneymaker on the corporate side to keep on doing that. So I think they're not going to do it. One thing that I do really want them to hit on is they have to basically the biggest thing that they know the Republicans are going to fall back on is the whole not constitutional vote. Even though they voted and it didn't pass, they're still going to go on that. It's the easiest way out.
Yeah, that's how Joni Ernst will sleep at night. Yes.
I will argue.
If they voted that it is constitutional, they can still just vote again that it's unconstitutional.
It makes no sense, right? So I think that the Democrats should double down on it. And I would call one of my witnesses would be a scholar. Because one thing that the Republicans don't have, they don't have a scholar. They do not have a constitutional scholar that says this is not constitutional. They don't have any. It's zero. They used a guy and said, here's our constitutional scholar. And he tweeted out and goes, oh, no, they're misrepresenting my words. I completely think this is real. If Democrats are smart, the team will double down on the whole, oh, by the way, this is constitutional. Here's our scholar. Ask him questions. And not only is it constitutional, we as a committee passed the resolution that is constitutional.
Not as a committee, as a Senate body.
As a Senate. So we passed it. It's now a rule. So when you go and vote, don't come back and say, I didn't feel like it was constitutional because the rule has been passed. They have to back him into a corner, and they have to make sure that these Republicans are voting on what Donald Trump did. They can't use the whole, oh, it's not constitutional. You got to put them in that corner and let their careers go down in flames that way.
Yeah. And you got to get up and say, this is going to be the Lee exemption, that a president cannot be impeached after January 6th. This is going to be the Lee exemption. When Joe Biden in 2024 jails all the Republicans in Senate and passes 4 bills in 3 days because there's no Republicans in Senate to fight against it, and you go, well, you can't do that. That's illegal. You can't impeach him, so fuck off. Go walk. The Lee exemption. None of you guys were hurt. You were arrested in a nice place. Lee exemption. Fuck off.
I'm down. We'll make sure you have organic meals.
Yeah, make sure they have organic meals and it's nice. But yeah, you don't even have to arrest them. Just bar their entry into the Senate body and just pass bills without them. Say we're not allowing them in the Senate because Joe Biden said they can't come in.
All right, party people, it's getting late and we got to switch it up. We're going to close the shop tonight, but before we do, we're going to take time for some predictions. It's been a bit since we've done any predictions.
I'm not going to revisit my
I've been dying for some predictions.
Well, sometimes we remember them and sometimes we might forget them.
I got 2. I would love to hear what everyone's predictions are, including the people who are watching. Do you think, it's 2-parter. Number 1, will Mitch McConnell vote to impeach or remove the president? Wow. And number 2, how just because I want to see a bunch of numbers out there, so we got a note for the Mitch McConnell. How many Republicans will vote to remove the president? So throw your numbers out: 5, 6, 8, 1, 0, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, 6.
And I guess we'll go around the room real quick. So Ace,
I got 6.
So what's your answer to question 1?
No.
No, and then 6, and then Jeff, what's your answer to number 1?
No and 8.
No and what? No and 8. Okay, and then Marty.
So here's how this is going to go if it goes. And I'm just going to put it out there because I'll be the lone wolf and others know that I'm, as I've said, a hopeless romantic. I think something could crack. And if it cracks, it's going to be a yes, and it's going to be 25 plus. It will not be 17. If it goes yes, it will be some sort of a moral imperative issue that allows people to jump and not be the deciding vote by anywhere close. So that's my prediction. I still think it could go that way because I don't think we're done yet. I think
25.
I think it's going to go way past 17 if it's a yes.
Floodgates, right? Because once you have Mitch McConnell jump on,
yes,
I see what you're saying.
Once you're past 17, the 18, 19, 20,
you don't want to be Mr. 18 or
those
Mr.
guys don't matter.
No, I agree with you, but the only thing I thought about this, and I was like, but they call it in order, in alphabetical order. You're not like Mitch when John McCain walked up and did a thumbs down. And Mitch was standing there next to the voting spot, with his arms folded. He didn't know what the hell was about to come out of John McCain. So it tells me that sometimes you don't know what they're going to do. So I get what you're saying. They'll follow Mitch McConnell's lead, but how are they going to know what his lead is?
Well, I think what.
I'm going to say this: it's a 90% chance that it's an acquittal.
Sure.
So don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But if it goes into, and I want to leave room for this, if it goes into some sort of a fact or some sort of a mind-blowing moment in the next week and a half that does shake them, it won't be 17 that go. It'll be more like 20 or 25 that end up going.
What about if Marty's right, for example, and today they did all go in that room and it was a Trump conference call and Trump reamed every one of those people's asses for 3 hours and they hung up the phone and all of them are just like, nah, like we got to turn this around. I mean, something like that could have happened. I mean, something like that.
So if that's the case, then there are 6 of them in that room looking at only 11 of them.
I mean, yeah. What if he was in there calling Ted Cruz a bastard or something? I mean, they might have come out of that room. There's a chance they went into that room too and just said, "We gotta, you guys, this is over. You guys, we're totally fried. There's no logical argument. Just get up there and just say nah, and get it over with, and then we're gonna get up there and say, the time has come to be real patriots. It's possible, like he's saying. And so obviously, what happened is in the discussion, you would hear McConnell say, this was wrong. I'm against it. We have to impeach him. And so by the time the ballot came, it wouldn't just be this Republicans are don't do it, and the Democrats are saying do it, and suddenly there's a vote and we're all surprised. I think it would be something that would be a tide turn that we would see in the comments and discussions. I think that's possible. And I think, again, I mean, maybe Trump does something crazy. Maybe Trump not only called Cruz names, but threatened him. If you don't acquit me, I will primary you again, and I will beat you again, and I'll call your wife ugly again. You better acquit me.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know. And so,
my son will primary you, and he'll call your wife ugly.
By the way, Donald Trump, during the primaries, said that Ted Cruz cheated when Ted Cruz won some of the primaries. I don't know why it wasn't brought up, because I thought it was a good idea to show how Donald Trump always says the other side cheated. The other side cheated.
Election, he said, was fraudulent because
he said Cruz cheated when he was winning, and if I don't win the nomination, it's because someone cheated. I mean, he already did it to them, to the Republican
Every election he's had, he said also, there was cheating. Even when he won, he said there was cheating.
I think what Marty is also saying is Mitch McConnell, he's not going to want to be just one of 8. If Mitch McConnell decides to vote, he's going to make it. He's going to let.
Oh, people I see. Yeah. He's going to have some padding around him.
One of 8. He wants to be one of 20, 25. He wants to show that he has power, which is why I don't think he's going to do it, because Mitch McConnell is not in a place where he's interested really in being part of one of 6 or one of 7. He wants to be one of 30, one of 25. So he can show that he has power. So if he decides to do it, he's going to know that there's 20 coming with him, and he's going to make it. People will know. He's not just going to vote out of nowhere. We're going
to they'll be moved. They'll be like the snowplow at the beginning. It'll be like, okay, we're clearing this shit out. Yeah. We're going to come in with 30 people, and we're going to then demand that you don't ask me those 10 questions when I go on Face the Nation anymore.
That's right.
But this is why this is why I hope there's more to this trial, because right now, does anybody on this panel think that we have 17 votes? Exactly. So you can't end the trial. You have to have witnesses, because none of us will think that we have 17 votes right now. Just don't.
Well, and not to open a can of worms right at the end of the thing, but Clinton, it was basically 50-50 vote. I think it was 50-50 on one charge and 45-55 on the obstruction of justice. So basically, I think the inappropriate behavior side of it was like basically a wash, but 5 more people voted that he had obstructed justice. And I think he got caught pretty red-handed obstructing justice. I mean, lying to a grand jury or something effectively. He was pretty much caught red-handed. So, I mean, if you get caught red-handed and you can't get convicted, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe back to the title. Maybe that's the American way.
Of course, also Bill Clinton. Yeah, Bill Clinton was rooted somewhat in reality and was actually a charismatic person that brought people to politics. Yeah, and it was midterm. It was middle of his term. To again, they need to ask Mike Lee, why would you protect him? He's out of office. We're only talking about not letting him run again. He doesn't need a mulligan because we're not killing him. We're not fining him. We're just saying he can't be president again. That's not a very heavy punishment, really, if you think about it. It's actually extremely small because the odds that he come back, I mean, won't he literally be like 79 or something? I mean, he'll literally be 80 if he ran again. And I mean, let's be honest, Joe Biden, the next 4 years, we probably will see Joe Biden age a little bit. He's also a very old man. So you tell me at the end of one very old man's career, we're going to bring in another old man who had an insurrection, all this other stuff. Let's just get it over with. Pull off the band.
Last piece, there is a report that just came out that apparently, well, this is not going to shock anybody, but Donald Trump actually had a pretty severe pneumonia during his COVID, and they were actually telling him that he's going to have to be intubated. So his lungs are not great either. I don't know why they're. Well, I think they're just pushing it to the side and go, let someone else deal with it. Someone else will deal with it, and within the year, he won't be a thing anyways. And I don't have to be the one worried that I'm going to get attacked, which is why I've always said it needs to be a secret ballot. But I don't want to start a whole thing. Because there is a risk to their lives, and I actually think it's a pretty legitimate question that. Why should they have to take that risk when the others don't? Like a Mitt Romney is obvious, but someone like the Louisiana guy, that's kind of unfair because, he is doing the right thing, but he's already being attacked politically unfairly, and he's doing the right thing. And we're not even talking about getting attacked physically. Now, he lives in Louisiana. That's MAGA country. Does he really want to put his family at risk like that? I don't know if I would. You're putting a lot of. There are people. This is a cult. They just
it is a cult, and that's the piece where if there is going to be a shift ever away from election fraud and these very minimalistic, stupid ideas as the core of their party. If I'm a Republican tonight, and even if I'm a very right wing senator, hey, you can sell a new package to the base. Yeah. You know that you can program and you can. It's going to take a while. It's going to take some work. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take some stuff. But these people can be moved. Yeah. It's just, do you have the courage to do it and the wherewithal to do it? And maybe they don't. Maybe they're just like, no, the old records the jukebox is full of the old records and we can't buy any new albums. I don't know.
Maybe it's not so much stopping Donald Trump, the man coming back in 4 years. Maybe they're afraid to kill off Trumpism because it's been so easy to mold.
Right.
Well, and of course we all know, you got Trump, but then you got the Trump kids and everybody else. Again, horse trading we won't investigate you might get them a little further. I mean, they might be looking at Ted Cruz right now going, if he doesn't get impeached, you said very similar things and you could be criminally responsible and you're not the president.
Right.
I would say on the New York
Times,
one
likes you.
No one likes you. Real quick, since Ace brought it up, and Luke, if you have any opinions, I know you have firsthand opinions. I got my wife's opinion secondhand. She said that story was pretty thin about could have been intubated. She feels very strongly that his sats were dropping, may have even touched into the 80s. And they were telling him he was on oxygen at the White House. She feels, I don't know if that was reported or not. She feels that they basically said, if your sats drop, we can't intubate you here. You need to go to Roger Reed if you want to walk there. Yeah. Walter Reed, sorry. Roger Reed's Walter's brother. He runs a tire shop.
He was more of a singer-songwriter.
Roger Reed tire shop, Walter Reed Hospital.
Like Dave, Jesus' brother.
Yeah, big brother. But long story short, she thinks that the story is being a little overblown, that probably the conversation was, if your sats drop more, relatively more, 5% more, we'll be calling an ambulance. So your choices are walk out while you feel okay, fly there. Then if your sats drop while you're there, we can intubate you and everything else. She doesn't really feel it's quite, CNN's literally reporting about they were discussing intubation. She doesn't feel that that's likely at all based on what we saw.
I think that's a media move to carry the ball of some pity and mercy on a day where that sucker is ranting and raving around Mar-a-Lago and hitting everything he can with a golf club.
Of course, CNN was pounding him for it, saying, they lied to us. And of course, the doctor, they played all his stupid quotes.
That's one of the ways the media works.
But why did they put that doctor in front of the media? Why didn't they just put out a spokesman to answer the questions from the media? Why put the doctor out there to be like, yeah, his sats were, below 92, but not like way down at 81 or anything. Like, what is that? That's not even an answer.
It's a con, and you need characters to stand in on the con. Sorry, Mr. Luke.
I'll never forget the little doctor. Do you guys remember there was one doctor, seemed to be Asian American, and he was wearing like Shaquille O'Neal's white coat. There was one doctor in a coat that touched the ground. It was the longest coat. If that is his coat, I have no idea why. And it wasn't even a short man. He's a good 5'10" man, and he is in a 7-foot-long coat.
They just found him a coat. Here, let Luke.
I was just going to say that from what I heard the story, it sounded as though that this whole decision as to whether to intubate or not was at Walter Reed when he was already there. So I already knew about the whole ploy to get him. Hey, little buddy. I already knew about the ploy to get him over to Walter Reed. You want to you want to go to Walter Reed on your own steam. However, I guess it's possible that his sats dropped whilst at Walter Reed, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
but I
don't think he would have. Obviously, he wasn't intubated. He wasn't close to intubation in my mind, and then back home in 2 days. Like, he couldn't have been. In my mind, he wouldn't have been at crisis sats and then back up and on his feet and walking across the lawn as quickly as he was, but that's just my 2 cents.
I thought he looked really rough when he walked across the lawn.
He sure did.
He walked across,
and he was gasping, and he barely made it up the goddamn stairs.
He went up 2 flights of stairs. He did 2 flights of stairs. He did one deep gasp, and my wife said even other pulmonologists talk about, like, he was using neck muscles and everything. Like, he was breathing with his entire body. But he took one big hard breath with his mask off. He probably took 2 or 3 with it on. And he recovered. I mean, point being, somehow he managed to skate through it. I really don't know how at his age he got through it so well, but
yeah, it's time for seconds on ice cream, dude.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
All right, everybody. Any final predictions? Because I don't know if I have any. It's so late at this point. I'm going to fall asleep very soon, but that's one of my predictions.
I'm optimistic there'll be some. I would just really, I don't know. I sure hope there's a surprise, because his lawyers get up there and just say Constitution and bullshit and bullshit and bullshit, and then the vote goes 55-45. I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
Yeah, I think we all are. We need something. We need the same thing like they did. They manipulated the trial. We need something where we pull out a trick and we go, okay, well, I want something as well. Hail Mary time at this point.
Yeah, for the sake of the country.
Listen, you're down 11 points, right? It's like a football game. You're down 11 points. I need you to throw up a Hail Mary. We don't take a knee.
Blue, I'm ridiculously optimistic to a fault. That's why most of my songs are sad when I write them. They just end up being about loss and shame and sadness and missed opportunity. But it writes good songs and makes for an interesting life. I'd like to thank everybody for being here with America Heals tonight. This is our 18th episode. We've been chugging along for a few months. It's our Thursday. We've got Mr. Luke Red Blue. Thanks for being with us tonight, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Ace on the River, dude. Always a pleasure. Thank you. We'll see you on Sunday as well. And Mr. Jeff, we'll see you on Sunday. We'll be live again at 10 o'clock Eastern. 10 o'clock Eastern on Sundays and Thursdays. America Heals. It's sort of a project, and we leave these things up. Hope that our conversations add to your experience, and please like and share and continue to move forward as we transition away from Periscope. We'll be continuing to find new ways to reach out. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Rock and roll.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Woo.